This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The soft colours of dawn as the sun rises over one of the most beautiful countries in the world really gives way to the reason why we are so lucky to be in nature. This is Safari Live. Safari vehicle in the world. As you can see, it is a stunning morning here at Djuma. We've got beautiful clouds and a beautiful sunrise. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got VM the Wildebeest, and as I said just now, we are coming to you live from South Africa, which means that this is interactive. Hashtag Safari Live, or on Twitter or on YouTube chat if you want to get hold of us and be able to ask any questions, or if you just want to say hello, really. Now, the plan is for this morning, I don't quite know where I want to head, and VM and I have been sitting here contemplating carefully our next move while watching this beautiful sunrise. We've been sitting here thinking about where we could go. I don't think the Nkuhumas, unfortunately, are going to be back anytime soon. I got an update yesterday that they were on the western side of Simbambili, which is basically in Ottawa, which is very, very far from where we are, and the chances of them getting all the way back here is quite slim. Now, we did hear a lion calling this morning. Well, VM heard a lion calling this morning. I heard absolutely nothing, but VM heard a lion calling this morning. He said it was very far away, so I don't know if lions are going to be on the menu for the morning. We will try and check, but we will also try and see if we can find tracks for whichever leopard was making those noises last night at the end of drive. So I think the plan is just to do a bit of the central parts of Djuma, just to see if there is any tracks, any signs of our spotted cats, and then from there I'm not sure where we're going to go. It's a warm day still. There's a bit of a cooler breeze than what we've had in the last two mornings, so I think that cold front is slowly but surely coming, but it still promises, I think, to be quite a warm day. So I think by around 8 o'clock it's going to be quite hot, and most of the animals will be seeking some sort of shelter. So we're going to try and utilize these cooler conditions that we have right now and see if we can't track down one of our predators. What we do have at the moment is quite a few antelope species that have been around on quarantine clearings for most of the morning. There's a couple impalas, there's some nyalas as well that are drifting about, and most of these guys were actually on the clearing itself when we first arrived. You can see there the nyala males also stuck in the bush there and having a little bit of a feed, and most of them were on quarantine clearings and spent most of the night there, in fact, and they've now started to just amble off as the sun has risen and go off into these thicker areas where they can start feeding. It's really interesting though, there seems to be this movement of a lot of nyala onto quarantine at night, and not last night, the night before, I noticed a mega herd of nyala. In fact, at first I thought it was a herd of impala. It was quite weird actually to see it. But how many did we count, Vildi? It was 16 or 18. I think it was 16 or 18 different, well, nyala females, and then a whole bunch of males as well. So really big herd that's hanging around at the moment, and it's quite cool to see so many nyalas. It's not often that we do see big herds like that. Normally it's just 3 or 4 that are scattered around together. So it was quite something to actually see. So I'm sure they're about. And then there was also some zebras at some point, which I think are up in front here. So I'm going to just try and go forward a little bit and just see if they're still hanging around. They were kind of close to where I stay, so I did see them this morning when I came down to start work, and they were milling around and doing zebra things, which is like rolling and eating, and that's about it really. That's what a zebra does, and avoid being eaten themselves. But it seems as though we're going to have a definite change in weather. These clouds that we're seeing this morning are indicative of a cold front coming, and so I would imagine that we're going to see it very much a change in weather by this afternoon or maybe even tomorrow morning. Right, no sign of the zebras that were in this particular area this morning, and so I'm going to carry on. But there is a group of people that are out and joining me this morning, and that is Brent Jamie Taylor in the Mara. And so I think Brent is raring to go and is through the gate and would love to say hello. So let's go across to him so we can say good morning.
Morning! Hello Tristan, maybe I should say hello to you guys first and then hello to the rest of the world watching. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Jahawi, and Well, we're going down the escarpment road, as you can see at the moment. So it'll take us some time to get to the bottom before we start for our search. I have absolutely no idea what we're going to be looking for today. I talk absolute nonsense. I've already went over the top for a leopard today. That big male leopard that we saw the other evening, which was quite nice. We're going to go have a scratch around that particular area. Who knows? Maybe we get lucky, maybe we don't. The grass is so tall, there is a possibility that we don't see him at all. But perhaps you're a little bit late on joining Safari Live this morning, or joining us on the show. That's okay. I understand if you've got to get your coffee or tea fix, no problem. But remember, you can chat to us, you can hashtag Safari Live, or you can talk to us via the YouTube chat. That is also acceptable. Okay. Looking very quiet though, from what I can see. I don't see any big gatherings of animals, no big herds of zebra. A couple of impala scattered here and there, but very, very far away. They seem to be chasing each other around at the moment. But yeah, so we'll probably head straight in that direction. But where the leopard is quite far away. It's maybe about a 30-minute drive, 35-minute drive just to get to the turnoff. And then we're going to drive on a very small sort of 2-track along a lugger for quite a few kilometers. And then hopefully he'll be around there somewhere. It would be nice. I wonder if the Ngamas ended up getting a kill. Yesterday, obviously, the gremlins attacked us, but they did try and stalk a warthog. It was quite nice watching the youngsters in the pride, the sub-adults. They must be just over a year or so. They got quite close to this warthog. Warthog had no idea, but it was a massive boar. And eventually when the boar realized that the young lions are there and the adults are sort of just watching from the distance, he sort of snorted, and you could see they were very nervous. They didn't want to do it. You know, a warthog could quite easily kill a young lion, no problem with those sharp tusks. So that was quite cool. But I didn't see them or go out yesterday afternoon. I didn't follow up. I don't know if Jamie went to them either. I can't remember. Right. Just having a look around. Lots of animals. Let's keep going though. Because we've got an objective today, we're going to try and keep going. Now, Heather, you've said that the Mara is just so beautiful. It is. It's breathtaking. It's definitely one of the prettier areas. Although everywhere you go and everywhere you have the privilege of visiting has its own unique charm. Obviously, Mara's got open space, whereas, for instance, Djuma is slightly different. Djuma is very thick, but the little areas around the river, around the Mulati and other little spots are all very, very pretty too. Although the northern Sabi Sands, is, in my opinion, is not the prettiest. Probably, I have to be honest, it's northern Sabi Sands in general, because there's no big river systems. It's probably the ugliest area in the Sabi Sands. You go further south, it's unbelievable down there. I always tell you about the beautiful big fig trees. James and Brent and Tristan and Scott as well would have told you, first before we worked down on the southern sands, how beautiful it is to see the big granite boulders and the big fig trees and big sandy rivers in the dry season. You know, it's quite nice. Although the Mulati's got a certain charm about it as well. But obviously it's quite narrow and it doesn't really rage like the Sand River or the Sabi River does, or even the Msutlu or the what else is there? The Sobatlatla is another one that was quite cool as well, that meandered through Sabi. But this is nice. This is very nice. The sunrises and the sunsets are unbelievable here. And I suppose that's because there's so many opportunities, photographic opportunities, you know, with all these beautiful Balanites trees. They silhouette the sky, well, against the sky, or you get the odd elephant, if you're lucky, or group of impala, you know, standing just a little bit higher than you. And just go out at 4x4. Right, so we're going to carry on. We're actually going to pick up the pace quite a bit now once we jump on the main road and head towards that area before the light gets too terrible. Brent is all powered up. He's been across the river. Let's go and see if he heard any strange sounds during the night.
Hello, hello. It looks like I'm going to rob a bank today, and there's a very good reason for that. Around us are these tiny little midges that sting like crazy, and they seem to be attracted to my neck and face. So I've got my buff on, I've got my kikoi on. My name is Brent Deersmith, and I'm avoiding biting midges in the Masai Mara. I have Sebastian Rombi on camera, and we have decided to come a little bit away from where we were. We spent the whole day with that female cheetah yesterday. Unfortunately, she then went through some big dips and out of signal area. They're coming. Evil little midges. So we're going to try to keep moving. We're going to go see if we can find the 5 boys. There's a couple of reasons for this. We're going to go towards there, and then hopefully we can find them and tell Jamie where they are, because she's going to be based out of Talek for the next few days. And then from there, we'll move our way, because I've heard Malika has also moved into the Ronkai Valley. So quite far from where we were with her last week. So we're going to see if we can find her. But in the meantime, let's carry on. We had quite a lot of rain last night, so the roads up here are very slippery, which is fun. You can do lots of tricks. You can slide around. Can even probably, if you really wanted to, you could do a 360-degree slide and end up facing the same direction you started. So the boys were up in those ridges yesterday, and they were hungry. So what I'm hoping is they've headed back down towards their favorite area, Balloon Crossing. So I'm going to go have a quick look around there. I have had the boys up here before as well, so I thought I would start in this area. Hi, William. William's wondering, what do we do about fuel when we go on a 4-day soiree? Well, William, fortunately... Oh, look. There's a harrier. A female harrier. Let's try to get a bit closer. And here's the first test of the morning for everyone, to try identify which harrier it is. Now, look at those outer tail feathers. It's one of the diagnostics of the females. So let's try to get a frontal view of her. But, William, these are diesel vehicles. So on a 4-day soiree, we get about 700 or 800 kilometers out of a tank. So we fill before we leave, and we don't really need to refill again until we get back into camp. Oh, she's off. I love the way they fly. And they glide over the grassland. Looking... Oh, she's got something. Oh, did she catch it? Was she successful? Let's just wait a second and watch to see if she pops up. Now, I was just saying how I love the way they glide over the grasslands. And they are incredibly efficient hunters of small rodents and insects. Now, there's a very, very distinct little giveaway to which harrier it is. And when she flashed, you saw there was a bit of a white bottom. Now, that white bottom is present in both female harriers that we get here, of the grey harriers. So we're going to have to go have a closer look. Hopefully she doesn't take off. Now, quite often when I've been sidetracked by following birds, you suddenly see a cheetah under a tree or a lion strolling past. Now, I don't want to get too close. We don't want to disturb her, that she might leave whatever hard-won mousey or bug she's caught. I'm just trying to see. Went down behind this termite mound here. Oh, there she goes. Oh, she's finished eating it. Now you can see the white on the back of her bottom. Now, that is not a diagnostic. Now, what you're looking for to identify the different female harriers or juvenile harriers is the amount of barring or striping on her chest. So the one has got a lot more than the other Oh, she spotted something else. There's Kruger in the distance. I just love the way they fly. Now that's the Rangers station, Kruger. Oh, is she going to go? Now we're seeing underneath her nicely. So we do have some guesses in. Yes, I didn't do it, says a female harrier. Yes, we're aware it's a female harrier. Oh, there's a balloon as well. We're wondering which female harrier. So it is one of the two grey harrier species. We have two. Robert says pallid harrier. Well, Robert, you were very close. It is the other. It is a female Montagu's harrier. Now, it is a female. I would say a female Montagu's harrier. Now, what I was looking at specifically was in the wings. So the Montagues have, even in the females and the sub-adults, have that little line down the wings. And the barring, there's a bit more white on the female Montagues. So there we go, you can see a female Montagues, or possibly, no, I'm almost sure it's a female Montagu's harrier. Now, they are quite common here. The pallid harriers we have seen, but they are far less common. It's quite easy with the males, but with the females it is a lot more tricky to tell the difference. Now, you never know that summer is coming to Djuma. There's always a possibility you might see a Montagu's or pallid harrier at Djuma as well. Let's find out if Tristan's ever seen one in the Sabi Sands.
Slowly but surely worked our way southwards just to come and check if there's any sign of these male lions roaring, and so far nothing on Djuma, but I have heard a report that they could potentially be on Chitwa, so I'm trying to get hold of the guys on Chitwa just to find out if there are any lions on that side, or if it was just my hearing that is a bit off. The radio is really, really bad for the Eastern Channel, so it's very difficult to make out anything when it comes to kind of what's going on this side of the world. I've got to be right next to people before I can hear even a word that they say. So I'm not 100% sure if I got it right. I know one male is definitely on Cheetah Plains because we got that update on the Northern Channel, which is the nice clear one, so I know that for sure. But in terms of whether the other two are on Chitwa, I'm not 100% sure. Also, I can't just drive into a sighting, so I've got to try and make a sort of find out what's going on, and if there actually are lions, and whether or not I can go to them. But at least it sounds as though there's something happening. It's good news. Maybe even if it's tracks, it's still hopeful that we might get to see one of the Birminghams today. That would be quite nice. I wouldn't mind spending some time with a couple of the Birminghams. What do you think, VM? Yeah. I think so too, yes. VM agrees, so that's what we're doing. We're now just checking the southern boundary just to double check that nothing's come over onto Djuma, because potentially, obviously, it could have happened that they might have crossed on this side. So I'm just checking and hoping that I can get in range of the guys in the east and be able to then talk to them and find out what's going on and how everything is working on that side. But it definitely is a different feel this morning to what it was yesterday. By this time yesterday, it was already starting to feel quite hot and quite sort of close and really not very comfortable, whereas this morning it's actually getting a little bit cooler. It's actually starting to cool down more than it is actually getting warm. So there's a nice cloud bank that is coming in. I don't think it's going to last much of the day, but there's still this kind of bank of cloud that is moving in from the sort of southeast, and that's where a lot of our big storm systems come from in the summer months. That's where we get our cyclones off the Mozambican Channel, and generally a lot more rain. Now I'm just going to pull off the road here and let this vehicle go past because they don't have the same clearance that we do, so we're going to be nice and polite and let them go. Those are obviously people that are leaving and going back home after a little holiday and a little jaunt in the Sabi Sands, and I hope that they had a wonderful time. I'm sure they did. Wherever they stayed, it's pretty much guarantee that they will have a good time, really. The sightings have been really good for a lot of the guys that have been in this area. So now I need to just try. I've just heard somebody on the radio, so I wonder if they can hear me. So I do apologize about using the radio, but it's at least if I can hear somebody. Any station in the east, copy me. Doesn't doesn't seem like anybody can actually hear me. Oh well, we'll just try and drive around and hope that we don't bump into anybody and cause any trouble as we do it. Hopefully there'll be there we go, somebody did hear me. Can I get an update for the east, please? We're just listening, trying to wait for somebody to reply to me. Okay, copy that. Just trying to get an update for the east. No, it doesn't seem like anybody's actually being able to give me an update. It's just kind of random. So I think the guys are trying to relay for me because some guys have better radios than others, and so hopefully somebody can give me some sort of sign of what's going on. Heather, so Tumba, the last time he was seen was 3 nights ago. That's when he was last seen. In fact, just in front of me where I am now, he was seen just crossing over there and onto this particular area. So I'm actually just going to go and check that section and try and go and have a little look. Go ahead. Also, we need to pick up a bit of litter that's on the side of the road. Copy that, thank you very much. I'll make a note. Now, I just want to pick this up because nobody likes a bit of tissue paper in the road. It's not very pleasant. Somebody's obviously gone to the loo and then left their tissue around. So I don't really want it on the road, and I don't really want it in the car, but we can't leave it there, and we can't have a situation where we've got a whole bunch of litter in the bush itself. So I'm going to just try and move out of the way of Tax, who's on his way southwards, also towards Cheetah Plains, I think, to go and have a little look at the Birmingham that's on that side. And well, I think we're going to strike it lucky too, because by the sounds of it, I have a nice surprise for all of you, which is very, very good. So let's try and have a little look and see what goes on in front here, because apparently there is something lurking on Chitwa Open. What it is, I don't know. I just got told I can go there, so I'm going to go and have a look and see what it is and see if I get lucky with something very cool. I have a feeling that it is one of the Birminghams, but that's kind of roughly what I think. I don't know for sure, but like I say, this is a bit of a mystery to us, so it's quite fun just to drive and not know where you're actually heading, but either way it will be fun. Roshni, saying you're going to keep your fingers crossed for a lion sighting. No, me too, Roshni. I'm hoping as well. Now, of course, I've got to try and find everybody, and I don't quite know. There we go. I can see a car already, which is good news. So let's see what we've got here in front. I'm hoping that it is something lion-y or leopardy. Like I say, I'm not 100% sure what animal it is. I just heard something about Birminghams, and I heard something about Chitwa Open and Cheetah Plains. Now, I don't know whether or not the ones here at Chitwa are Birminghams, but given that the guys have off-roaded and have headed into that direction, I would imagine that it must be Birminghams that are in this area. Yes, I can see one Birmingham already, actually. Excellent news. This is going to be fun. So we're going to have, it's a very fast sleep kitty at the moment that I can see, but, well, it is a cat, and that's always quite pleasant. And I haven't seen the Birminghams in so long, it's going to be tough to recognize who's who these days. There's actually 2 of them, so there's more than one. There's one on my right hand side and one straight ahead of me, which is awesome news. So we'll go and sit with the one on the right while the other guys watch the one on the left. They look as though they're very tired cats. They obviously were up to lots of different things last night, and we heard the roaring this morning. VM heard the roaring this morning, and so maybe they've all roared themselves out and are a little bit on the tired side. But I don't know who we've got just yet. I'll let you know shortly. It looks like Nena on my right hand side. On the left, I'm not 100% sure, but at least we've got one Birmingham that is fairly out there. And actually, this is Tinyo that I've got on my right hand side. So here's Tinyo, and on the left hand side, I'm not quite sure just yet. But these guys, as far as I know, have been all over the place recently. We've had a situation where these males have been down on Mala Mala, particularly Tinyo. I know I saw a video of Tinyo chasing another male and then fighting with one of his coalition members, and so he's been busy down in the south and has been causing a bit of chaos, and maybe that's why he's a little bit on the sort of tired side of life. But really good to see the Birminghams kind of back in this area. They look like they're very tired, but what I'm hoping is, because we're sitting here and there's sun that's rising and there's not that many clouds, I'm hoping that the sun is going to break through these clouds, get onto these lions that'll make them wake up a little bit and then start to move around. Now, I believe a lot of you are very excited that we've managed to find some of the Birminghams. Well, I'm very excited too, and I suppose we didn't really find anything. We just listened to the radio, and I suppose VM's kind of hearing of the call got us coming this way, but it was at least the other guys that found them. But still very cool to see, and you can see it's definitely Tinyo. His lip kind of sits up slightly on that left side. It almost curls in towards his teeth, and you can see his bottom canine when he's sleeping like that. You also can see that he's in a little bit of a dream, so his bottom lip is twitching. He's got really quite a nice dark mane as well around his chest. Tinyo seems to have the darkest kind of patch on that chest area, and so a little easier to identify him from that. Becca, you're asking how many lions there are in the resident pride. Well, the coalition that we see, so the Birmingham males, there's 4 of them, and then in the Nkuhuma pride, which is the pride that we see the most, there is 5 adult females, 6 sub-adults, and then 2 new cubs. The 3rd cub, I believe, is no longer there, so it's only 2 brand new little cubs. And so when the pride is all together, we have a situation where there is let me just double check this, but my maths is correct, but it should be that there are 17 lions in total in that pride. The other pride that we see sometimes, it's not always that we see them, but sometimes, is the Styx pride, and that's 3 adult females, and they have 2 older cubs. Then they have 4 medium cubs and 4 little cubs at the moment. So those are the 2 prides that we see here on Djuma at some stages, but the Birmingham males then service both of those prides as well as another pride. The Birmingham males also will go up into Torchwood as well. But I wonder why these boys are so tired, given that it's not exactly very, very hot. I would have thought that we might have seen them still at least have their heads up. I didn't think they'd be this sleepy so early in the morning. We've only just got started and they're already very tired. And it's not like they have full bellies either. They look as though they could do with a meal. Tinyo, are you going to wake up for us? I think the flies are irritating him. You can see he was pawing at his face, and maybe he's got 1 or 2 little cuts or scrapes from when he and one of the other males were fighting the other day, and the flies might just be irritating him. Now that the sun's up, you'll find that the flies will be out and about, and unfortunately that's going to mean he's going to be a little on the uncomfortable side. Now, I think it was the name, I'm not 100% sure, but you're asking if Tinyo still carries mange. Now, if you look on his tummy there, you'll see that he's got quite a dark gup. There we go. Sorry about that, gup. But you can see there on the tummy there's still this kind of black scarring, and so that's from mange. You can actually see a little bit of the scabbing sort of towards the armpits. So he does have a little bit still. It's not much, but he does have a little bit, and it is healing, and he's finding that the hair is starting to grow back a little bit, but it's still present there. So I'm sure once we've had another summer, hopefully that will wash him clean, and that will be the end of it, and we won't see any more sort of issues with mange on Tinyo himself. He's had a tough time of it. He was the one that was really badly affected by it right in the beginning. But that is one tired cat. I don't know if they're going to move anywhere at the moment. Like I say, what we need is the sun to come out. If the sun comes out, then we'll find a situation where these males might get up and start moving and kind of try and seek shelter. But for now, I think we're going to see them just very sleepy. Linda, lion prides will try and, I suppose, avoid each other if they are on the fringes of their territory. If they're in a situation where they are right on, sort of in the heart of their territory, and there's another pride that comes in, then no, they're going to be very confrontational. They're going to go and they're going to try and chase those lions away. If it's on a fringe or an area where they're kind of pushing into a new place, you might find they'll hear lions roaring and avoid them. Also, when it comes to coalitions, a lot of the time you'll find coalitions will push and try and expand their boundaries, much like the Birminghams are doing now. They're going south into Manamara, into Londolozi, a little bit into Ottawa, and so they're starting to kind of push and radiate outwards. And every time they hear, let's say, the Majingalans calling, often you'll find that if they're not all together, they might turn and come backwards and just try and avoid that confrontation until such time as they feel that they have the numerical advantage, or they have some sort of advantage over the individuals that they hear calling. So they do try and avoid each other, and that's why they roar and scent mark and all of these other things, is to try and avoid having to actually clash and fight, because a fight with male lions could ultimately lead to the death. In terms of prides, yes, prides will chase other prides out if they feel like it's in their territory, but if they're on the fringes and they hear another pride calling, you might find that they'll just retreat back and come back into where they know that they're safe. So it's a bit of both. I mean, at the end of the day, they do try and avoid some, but sometimes they'll also be confrontational if they need to be. Now, I think what I'm going to do is probably try and go and reposition at the other male and just go and see what we've got on that side, or who we've got, should I say. But while I do that, let's go back to Taylor McCurdy. Now, I have to apologize because I called Taylor Brent just now, and I also hope that Taylor's feeling much better. I know she's been under the weather the last few days, so hopefully, T-Bomb, you're feeling better. But let's go across to her and see what she's been up to.
I am feeling much better, thank you, Tristan. I'm just looking. What on earth is that? Oh, we've got hyenas, but there's actually a bird. I'm sorry, Jahawian, I'm throwing you in the deep end there. It's flying. It's about to fly past the giraffe. And I've never seen it before. It's got a white tail band, which is sort of like what a harrier hawk would have, or just a harrier would have. There it goes. But it was brown. The rest of its body was completely brown with this very, very white tailband. That's fantastic. I've never seen that bird before. I also don't have my big bird book with me. I've got a smaller one, which you can have a look at in a moment. I'm going to, if I can roll back. This is hyenas. Hi, hyenas. Were you sleeping in this little culvert? These are actually not pretty looking hyenas. Have a look at them. And just two. So there's basically a massive concrete pipe that runs underneath. It basically just filters the slug and allows water to go back and forth. And something like hyenas, porcupines do it as well, are typical culprits of utilizing it for dens or just sort of resting spots. In the Kruger National Park, if you want to see hyenas and find a den, just check underneath all those little culverts and you most certainly will find one. Look at these hyenas though. They're not the prettiest. Now we know it's a shame hyenas are not blessed with beauty. I think they're sort of quite quirky. They're my second favorite animal after the elephants. But they've just got unusual shapes to their faces. You almost look like you've been stung by a bee a little bit on the side of your head, don't you? And you're shaking your head saying, no, don't say that about me. I think I disturbed them. They look like they were fast asleep. I'm going to go back to sleep now. So we're still on our way towards our other spotted friend. Well, hopefully we're going to find him. There haven't been any reported sightings just yet. But as soon as we get through there and start passing some guides, we'll ask away. At the moment, it has just been the hot air balloon crew setting up all the breakfasts and things like that. Where are you going to go? I wonder if it's going to come through the water. Oh, this is cool. Hello. This is lovely hyena. Now, Roshni, you're wondering if I slept well with the zebras visiting me last night. It was actually quite funny. So we have zebra that come through camp all the time, hyenas and as well as elephants. But sometimes what happens is they get too close. The zebra are very comfortable around us and as well as around the tents. See, look, it's going to go into the basically in the drain now. You're so funny, hyena. And they eat all the nice green grass that's growing in between the guy ropes of the tents. So, and they're quite happy to do that. And I don't know if maybe the Askari or somebody walked out last night, but this one got such a fright. And I'm actually going to have to move because there's a big tractor coming up behind me. And it's probably going to chase these hyenas away just because it makes a lot of noise. So we'll keep going. We'll keep on our plan. But thank you very much, hyena. It was very nice to see you this morning. And somebody or something, zebra panicked and ran and obviously got caught on the guy ropes somehow. But then we know what zebras often do when they burst into a gallop as well, they pass wind. So there was a variety of sounds coming from the zebra as it was trying to get away, and the ground was really wet because we had quite a bit of rain, so it was slippery. So I'm just sitting in my tent going, please, I don't want to have my tent moved or, be dragging in my tent with the zebra attached to it. Of course, the zebra was 100% fine. Only reason I laughed was because I knew that it was okay. I actually got out my tent and I had a little look and it was just sort of standing there going, what just happened? Just as surprised. And then it put its head down and carried on eating. But so that was really comical last night to hear that. And then there were lots of hyenas whooping. And then also thank you everybody for all the wonderful messages. Just waving to Little Governor's balloon team for all the messages. I was very sick 2 days ago. Was it 2 days ago? But I'm feeling much better today. I'm just trying to get rid of this stupid headache that I now have. but I will survive. But it's nice to eat food again. That was great. I'm pretty sure we can't be too far away now. We must be getting there slowly. Now, Anthony, you're wondering if I have to worry about snakes in camp? Whenever you go in the bush, it's just a general guideline. It doesn't necessarily just pertain to Africa, but you know, if you go to Australia or in the States, whenever you go out into the wilderness, watch where you put your feet. If you've left your boots outside, make sure you tip them out, or, you know, bang them out. Lots of things will try and go and get warm, from scorpions to snakes to frogs, all these different things. So just be careful. And then just remember, of course, that when you have had a couple of colder days or after rain, often snakes will come out and try and get warmth on the ground. So at night too, especially here where there's snakes like puff adders, maybe the rattlesnakes and the rest of the snakes in the Viperidae family would do a similar thing. Maybe it's a trait of theirs. They'll come out and then of course they're reluctant to move, and that's when accidents can happen. And a lot of people that end up getting bitten in South Africa, most of the time it is during the day, but there's quite a few occurrences of people standing on puff adders at night. And I remember that living on the farms with horses and things, are often during the night on the pathway there'd just be a puff adder, or even on the game reserves you see it. So just be careful. I saw a garter snake the other night, which was quite cool. I had it on my Insta story. I know a few of you were actually asking about it. It was quite late after the show had ended, and it was really beautiful. It was black and white. I might have some pictures. I'll have a look. But it was quite cool. I've never seen a garter snake before. And then what else have I seen? I've seen a mamba, a green mamba of sorts here. Could be the eastern green mamba or the Jamisons, I'm not sure. I saw I think it was an olive house snake that I saw there, and then I saw something else, looked like a sand snake that whipped past me the other afternoon, just near my tent actually. So they're around, but they like to stay nice and hidden. I have absolutely no idea who I'm sending you across to. I missed that, but that's okay, because you'll have fun in their car anyway.
Well, look at this. I know Tristan found some male lions. We have one. Hello. Pop your head up. Beautiful specimen of a lion. And he's just heard something. I have no idea who this lion is or who his friends are, because there's not one, but 5. We set out looking for 5 cheetah. Instead, we've found 5 male lions, and possibly one of the strangest looking lions I've seen. He's got his back to us. Let's just drive around. I want to show you his face. Now, when I first saw him, I thought he was a little young male. But he looks as big as the others. He just looks like someone went at him with a hair shaver and shaved his mane. He's big in body. Hey, boys. Oh, look at that. Look at these 3 in a row. Now you all have to turn your head at the same time. Oh, only one. Oh, he's a bit angry. Look at that. Perfectly in a row. 3 beautiful big boys. Still a little bit young. I think we might have a very interesting situation going here. I almost think the funny-looking male off to the right is possibly trying to join a coalition. These aren't the dominant males I've seen in this area before. Now look how funny it is. It looks like someone's just taken a hair shaver to him. Now he's big. Donald is wondering, are lions aware of their surroundings when they're asleep? He's just talking. I think he might be trying to join this coalition. That is one possibility. As you can see, he almost looks maybe like a teddy bear. Big fluffy teddy bear. It really looks like someone shaved his hair, shaved his mane. It's all uniform length and perfectly manicured. So, Donald, yes, Donald was wondering, are lions aware of their surroundings when they're asleep. They will wake up when they hear something or whatnot. Now, he looks like he's been whacked a bit last night. He's got quite a lot of fresh wounds and bite marks. So it's. I don't think these are the dominant males that I've seen in this area before. I'm at the top end of the Ronkai. But there are exquisite males. I don't know if they've just moved into this area. And this fluffy lion is trying to join the coalition. Now, sometimes when joining coalitions, you do get beaten up. But, of course, the long-term rewards are worthwhile. There is obviously the other option that he could be... He looks too old to be one of their sons. I mean, you can see that it's just a strange mane, I think. Very interesting. Come wide, Sip. It looks like this other male might give him a bit of a hiding. And say hello to his friends first. Becca is wondering whether unrelated males will join a coalition. Becca, there's in certain areas, everyone assumes that all male coalitions are related. See, I think they're growling at him, not at us. Oh, he gave a little growl back. This is very interesting. So, Becca, yes, a lot of coalitions are formed from unrelated males. I think we could get a lion fight here. I think my plans have changed. I'm very interested in seeing how this plays out. I might look for the cheetah a bit later, but this is fascinating. This is not something you get to see every day. So I don't think it's their son. I do think it's a male possibly trying to join the coalition or has run into these four boys. And if we look at his back leg of the fluffy lion. Now, if any of you guys, you can see, those are all relatively fresh bite marks. Now, I think a lot of the action might have happened during the night, but it doesn't mean it's over just yet. This is fascinating to watch. Now, if you come out, Seth, and we have a look in the ground over here, you can actually see where there's been fights and scuffles.
Oh yeah.
You can see on the ground that there's been some definite action around here during the night. Now, joining a coalition isn't always the easiest thing. Sometimes it does take a bit of beating up to sort of prove your worth. You can see there's some wildebeest in the background just watching. And the lions seem far more preoccupied with each other. Now, if old Fluffy fails to... he thought he was going to get up. No, he's going to lie down flat. But every time he moves, there's a little from one of the older males or one of the definite coalition, just from the way they're lying, and he's 5 meters away. This is very, very interesting. Beautiful sky as well. It seems like they all calmed down a little bit for now. And of course we know that can change in an absolute split second, especially with male lions. Ooh. I know ambulance is up, but it might be a bit too far. You can hear what sounds like a lion roaring in the distance. It's not, it's an ostrich.
I don't know if we're picking it up.
course, there's always some comfort in being 4 as opposed to 1, and you can see he's sleeping very, very comfortably. I didn't do it is wondering, would the 4 lions kill the other one? There is a possibility. If the fight got heated enough, one bite along the spine or it could easily kill another lion. Male lions, when they do fight, it is very, very, very spectacular. However, they are hesitant to go full fighting, especially if these are not males that are dominating over territories and prides yet, because the injury, you can see there we go, some more fresh wounds on his back. They might injure themselves very badly as well. But yes, male lions definitely do kill other male lions. But a lot of this lion's movements are quite submissive. Let me in, guys. I want to be part of the club. Please, look, guys. I'll be such a good boy. I'll do all the main fighting for you. Now, MJ is wondering, how long does it usually take for a male lion to join a coalition? A couple of days sometimes, but normally into weeks, or 10 days to 2 weeks, hanging around the peripheries of a coalition, acting submissive, and just like that, and just generally being around and taking the beatings when they come, and giving enough back to show that it's worthwhile for these lions to let him into the coalition, that he'll be a value adding member. It's ostrich calling again. It's far away though. Michelle is saying, is it unusual for him to stay after a fight? Michelle, not if he's trying to join this coalition of 4 males. He will hang around until either they beat him too badly that he decides the risk is not worth the reward, or eventually he is accepted into the coalition. Before he's fully accepted, it'll be sometimes a month or 2, but normally about 7 to 14 days for him to really ingrate himself and be sort of marginally accepted. Now I hear lions in the distance. Maybe that'll spark these boys to start roaring. Far, far away towards the Talek River. And only one male seems to be paying attention. So I'm just listening. Oh, look at that sky. It's stunning as well. It's just... Let's see. I'm going to move around to see the other boys' faces to see if they've got any distinguishing scars. Okay, so I'm definitely going to stay with these 5 boys for a little bit longer, see if anything happens. While we do that, let's shoot all the way back to the Greater Kruger and the Birmingham boys.
Well, you can see we've come and repositioned at the other male line, and that is Mfumo. So Mfumo is having a really very, very, very sleepy nap this morning. It seems as though both of these individuals, both Tinyo and Mfumo, are in a situation where they are completely fast asleep. They're not even moving. We had a whole herd of impala that walked right past Tinyo, maybe even not even 15 meters from him, and he didn't even wake up. He didn't even look at them for once. And so I don't think our boys are going to be too active today. I think they are really down and out. But what I'm hoping hoping is there's a third Birmingham walking around on Cheetah Plains, and apparently he's walking quite fast. And what I'm hoping is that he might make some sort of a noise that could potentially get these guys to wake up a little bit. Also, being at Chitwa Open, there's a lot of animals that come through here. So there's a lot of waterbuck and impalas and kudu and various other things that come to drink. So even though it looks fairly sedate and stationary at the moment, it's not a bad idea just to sit and wait for a while before we kind of move on and just see what happens. You never know, maybe these two boys do start to wake up. But you can see Mfumo is looking absolutely wonderful. He's looking better than what Tinyo is, I must be honest. And VM was saying that he seems as though he's a little bulkier too. If you look at his forearms, if you want to call it that, they are massive. His front legs and front paws are really quite large, and he's got that distinctive scar under the right eye that makes him quite noticeable. So he's looking good, and his mane is starting to fill out quite nicely. He's got a bit of darkness coming in around the chest area, so he's becoming a lot more handsome than he was a few months ago when he had a couple of scratches and scars and looked a little bit on the tatty side. But like I say, you can see that these two are not waking up. Tinyo popped his nose, and Tinyo had his head up for all of about 1 second and then put his head back down again. There's another vehicle that came in just to come and see them, but with, like I say, the sleepiness of these two, I think there's not going to be much activity at all this morning. I think we're going to see this where they kind of pop their heads up and then back to sleep again. It's really quite strange though. I would have thought in weather that we've got now that they might have spent a lot more time just waking up and actually looking around. It's not like it's very hot to make them sleep, but obviously it's been a long night that they're as sleepy as they are right now. And this is a nice place to be. Like I said, there's lots happening at Chitwa Dam. There's always birds calling and Egyptian geese making noise. You hear the hippos grunting and snorting in the background every now and then. Randomness, the reason they were named the Birmingham Boys is because they come from an area called...
Quick link, and Facebook Live. Guys, look at this. The four males have suddenly stood up. Wasn't that incredible? I didn't say anything so you could hear those amazing sounds. This is live from the Masai Mara. We have a young male lion trying to join the coalition of 4 older males, and they are giving him a really hard time. And he's going to keep trying to join them. Wasn't that amazing? My name's Brent. Seb's on camera. This is Seb's first male lion fight. Those sounds just go straight through you. Now, the 4 males are moving away. It's going to be very interesting to see what the younger one, what the smaller man does. Is he going to continue to try follow them, to join their band of brothers? Now, for him, as a single male lion, it is worth sometimes taking those beatings to be able to join a group of 4 males. It means he's going to have a lot better chance at surviving out in this fierce land that is the Masai Mara. If he's by himself and he gets older, he might join or might come across a group of 4 older males that hold territory already, and that would be the end of him. Now, at the moment, it looks to be quite a bit of sort of testing. Is he worth it? Is he going to be a good member to join the coalition? And now the other 3 of the males walked off. 1 is still sitting there. So if he follows them, he could be still trying to join them. Now, this could have been going on for a couple of days already, and sometimes it can take 7 days to 14 days for a coalition to allow a new member in. Now, I don't think he's too much younger than them. He's just got a very, very strange mane. It looks like someone gave him a crew cut. But he is a very beautiful looking lion. Now, they were all lying opposite each other, about 5 meters from each other, in absolute... Look at the drool coming off his chin after that fight. Ex-Ranger is wondering, would his short mane play any part in him being accepted into the coalition or not? I don't think so. I think it'd be more how he stands up to the beatings he's been taking. And when I look at the ground around, I can see this has been going on all night. I can see lots of different broken up pieces of ground where the lions have been fighting throughout the night. And he's sporting a lot of fresh wounds on his back. We can't really see them at the moment, just with the way he's lying. Oh, sorry, that's my hand. I'm being attacked by biting midges. There's this whole swarm of these very bad little midges that actually sting. They've got a little bit of formic acid in them, so it's quite painful. But don't worry, I'll live through it to bring you this. I just want to move on to the other side of the lions. Megan says, do they have to fight to join? Unless they come into contact with each other when they're all just leaving their natal prides, yes, there will always be fighting for them to join. So I'm going to see if we can see if they've opened up any fresh wounds on his back. So you can see his back is a myriad of scars. Oh, there is a fresh wound that's been opened up. You can see there's a bit of blood coming down. Now, what is incredible about these creatures is they do have the most resilient of immune systems. Now, Charlotte is wondering, will the older boys kill him? Not necessarily, Charlotte. I don't think any of these males have their own territory yet. So they're nomadic, although the four look like they're in the perfect sort of age to start taking over from other males. If I remember correctly, this area has got 2 big older males, so a group of 4 young males coming in would be quite a big threat. You can see the Thompson's gazelles getting far away from those big boys as they march down towards the top end of the Ronkai River. Off they go. Oh, flop down. Now you can see that's very, very important coalition behavior. Oh, isn't that incredible? So lying on top of each other like that is part of ensuring those bonds are very close between the males. Now, there's one male that looks a bit older than the other 3, and so they could be related, they might not be. It is not uncommon for male lion coalitions not to be related. And I think that's what's happening here with this little guy trying to join, and he's got to prove his mettle. There's the last of the 4 older males moving. Now, Nicole wants to know, how will we know if he gets accepted into the coalition? Well, it's going to take a while. What's going to be very interesting now, as the last of those big feet head off to the north, is whether he gets up to follow them. So if he gets up to follow them, he's going to continue to try and join this coalition of 4 males. If he doesn't, it means he's probably decided the risk isn't worth the reward. So here he is, a little bit worse for wear, watching as those other males leave. So, as I say, whether he gets up to follow or not is going to be very, very interesting. Now, isn't this incredible? Remember, this is 100% live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. It looks like he might be wanting to get up. Just watching the movements on his body. And Sebastian has just been attacked by the biting midges, so that is them trying to get them away from his mouth. They've decided that we are very tasty this morning. So he's still watching them disappear. Is he going to join them, or is he going to take this opportunity to maybe try and move away and not take another beating? Hi, Tracy. Tracy's asking, do no lions stand a chance on their own? Tracy, They do. So what happens, well, in an area like this where big coalitions are the most common thing and they dominate the majority of the mara, if you are a single lion who doesn't manage to join one of those coalitions, there is a way for you to pass on your genetic code, and it's to become a very sneaky lion and a nomadic lion. So what will happen is when there's a female in estrus, you'll hang around the edge, mate with her quickly, and then disappear before the dominant males find you. And in certain areas of Africa, up to 45% of the cubs are actually not born to the pride males. They're born to those sneaky males who haven't been able to join a coalition and work around the peripheries of the bigger prides and the bigger male coalitions. And they actually are quite successful because a lion is programmed to eat and pass on his genetic code. So the fighting and all that is all tied into both of those things. They'll fight over food and they'll fight over mating rights. Now, with the male lions like this, there are 4 of them, so they're already a nice big coalition, so they're quite strong, and you can see from the way they were lying on each other, those bonds between those 4 males are very, very strong. So they probably, if they're not related, they've been together a long time, at least 2 or 3 years. Where there is this guy, you can see he's just trying to join. Now the lions are getting a little bit further away, so he looks like he keeps wanting to get up to join them. Elizabeth saying if one accepts him, we'll all accept him. Elizabeth, very difficult to say. I think he would need to be... There would be others that are more tolerant in the beginning and some that are not. So if he is tolerated by 1 or 2 of them, he could definitely make his way into the coalition eventually. Roshni is wondering, why would females encourage nomadic lions to mate with them? I don't think they encourage it. It's ingrained in them. It is to do with genetic diversity, especially in areas where you've got big coalitions of males that dominate over prides for a long time. They often end up mating with their daughters. So it is a way to make sure that there is new blood and new genetic diversity coming into the pride, even if they are stuck with the same males for an extended period of time. Normally, male lions will 4 or 5 years at the top, and that's sort of to coincide with when their first set of cubs becomes sexually mature. So they're then pushed out normally by new males, and so the mating will be with new males and not with their fathers. However, in areas where you have big coalitions, there's often an overlap, and there will not always, but quite often be a generation of cubs that have been sired or by their fathers. So they're both their father and grandfather. So let me just get this right, yes. So basically the fathers will mate with their daughters, and there'll be that generation that is inbred. Now, that's not the biggest problem with lions. Lions are able to inbreed up to about 4 or 5 generations without any adverse effects. Now, he's still watching them, but I'll show you quickly what Sebastian and I are hiding from, why I've got so much stuff around me. And you can see these tiny little things. You wouldn't think that they are terrible, but they sting like anything. And this tiny... there's some making new tiny stinging things. You can see the females are slightly orange, and the males... can't get there, sorry.
No,
well,
but I can go where I am now.
Okay, well, let's have a look back at our male. But so the female of these biting midges are orange, and the males are black, and basically there's piles of males all over the females. So, oh, he's starting to call a little bit. He just did a soft contact call. So he definitely wants to join them. But now you can see he's sort of going through the motions. Was the beating worth being able to join this large coalition of males? He just keeps looking like he's about to move. We're just going to wait a little bit to see if he does get up to join them. Now, it is an absolutely stunning morning in the Mara. And we were very lucky. We spotted these guys from quite far away. And we set out looking for 5 cheetahs, and we found 5 male lions. And that's the way it goes when you're live in the African bush. We never know what is going to be around the next corner. There we go. He's showing signs that he might move. You can see, there we go, he's up. Oh, he's got a bit of a sore foot from that last beating. Oh, he's going to lie down again. So, obviously he got bitten. It looked quite high up on the leg that's causing him to not use that leg. And, oh, does he got a new cut on his face as well? On the left side. Oh, turn your head, other way. You can see him licking like that. It might mean he's going to try clean the wounds a little bit. So that's the one that's obviously causing the most pain at the moment. Now, it might seem really, really harsh to us watching, but this is nature unfolding as it has for hundreds of thousands of years on these open plains. Oh, he looks to have kept his face reasonably pretty. I just wanted him to turn his head to the... Oh no, he's managed to keep his face relatively pretty. Now, Aubrey's wondering, what is the success rate of males joining a coalition? I'm not sure, Aubrey. I haven't seen it enough times to know. And often you will only see the male coalitions once they've already formed. Oh, look at those eyes. So it is quite difficult to say. I will do some research on it and try to find out. But the only way to really do it is to find, don't take your aggression out on us. We didn't do anything to you. So quite often with animals, specifically after things like that, what he's displaying now is misplaced aggression at the vehicle. It's not serious, but because he's got such a hiding from those other males, he gave us a little growl and a little raise of the lip. Don't worry, we're not in any danger, and it's just the fact that he needs to sort of maybe save some face for someone, and it happens to be us. Donald is wondering, is it possible that the coalition ripped this one's mane apart? I don't think so, Donald. I just think he's got a funny mane. So all lions have had different manes. I've seen a male lion that only has a mane on the bottom and nothing up on top. He was bald up on top. So every male lion has a slightly different mane. And this guy, actually, I quite like his crew cut. It's quite pretty. Well, it looks like he's not going to follow the males now. He might definitely wait and try follow them again a little bit later, but it looks like he's going to lie down and try recover a little bit from his injuries. You can see there's even bites on the inside of his leg. Oh, he popped it down again. But that is one of the areas that male lions will go for during a fight. The mane is there to protect the throat and that area. So often male lions, if they can get into the back legs, and particularly if they can get under and onto the soft area of the stomach, that's where male lion fights can do a lot of damage. It looks like he's going to lift his leg in. There we go. You can see a little bit higher. You see there's bites all in there, and you see the blood. So it is an area that is quite vulnerable in lions, particularly when they are fighting. Now, I think those other males haven't moved off too far. I think they're probably going to have a snooze in the trees. I've lost sight of them now. They've moved into some little thickets. But we're going to sit with this guy a bit longer, see if he does decide to follow the rest of the coalition. Oh. Are you going to move? But remember, we could go live at any time, so keep a lookout. If he does decide to follow those males, we'll follow him, and we will bring it to you as soon as it happens. So from myself, Brent and Seb, and this gorgeous crew-cut male lion, who's hoping to join those other 4, hopefully we will see you a little later. Wow, guys, wasn't that incredible? This is fascinating behavior. I've only ever seen it twice before, and that's why it took me a little while to decide whether he was trying to join the coalition or not. I think he still might move towards where those males have gone into the lugger. We're going to have to wait and see. At the moment, I think he's just licking his wounds. Shame, boy. I don't know. I think I'm developing a soft spot just because of that funny mane of his.
Me too.
Yeah, Seb as well. I really want to see what this guy gets up to. I hope he does manage to join that coalition. Another coalition of 5 males. That will be incredibly impressive. Oh, here we go. He's going to try to sit up. It looks like he took a bad bite on his back left leg. Now, of course, I don't think it's life-threatening at all. Just sore. You can see he's really trying not to put any pressure on it, but he is slowly, well, it looked like he was going to slowly hop towards the other males, and he's decided he's going to take another break. Oh, it looks like the other males have actually crossed the lugger. Just one of them popped out of the trees now, way in the distance there. See him, Seb?
That's it.
Where's that tree? Now, if you go from that tree a little bit to the left, wait, he was a little bit more, and he just popped behind the bush again. Let me just double check.
Oh, I've got him.
You got him?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is, yeah. Well, that's actually a different one to the one I saw. Well, there are 4 of them after all. Now, it's a cool morning. So they could cover a bit of distance. They might have been trying to get away from this young male, or I don't think he's that young though. I just think he's got a strange mane. Been trying to get away from him for quite some time. He can definitely see them. He's actually watching that one that we were watching as well, and it's disappeared onto the other side. They are all hungry, all 5 of them. And there are the loiter herd of wildebeest are still around in this area. So not the migration that goes through to the Serengeti, but the local Kenyan migration. Oh, and we've had big cat action. And I just spotted something for the birders. Right opposite me there is a Corey bustard. Oh dear. And I think I found the 5 male cheetah as well. It's all happening out here. When Seb's finished showing you the Corey bustard, I want him to check something else with the camera. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Actually coming towards us. Now, Seb, if we go to that hill opposite us there's a couple of cars, and that's the area I thought the 5 boys might be in before we spotted these lions, and I think I can actually see them. There they are. They're the 5-boy cheetah. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to have to go through the lugger. I might have a bit of picture breakup. I will come back to check on what's happening with these lions, but the 5 boys look like they're on the hunt. Good luck, mister. I really like that lion. So, I'm going to have to go quite quickly. And I do apologize as we get closer to where they are. We do have to go through a dip, so we might have a bit of picture breakup. Find 5 male lions, don't move, and find 5 male cheetah. That's the way we do it, Archer. I was a bit of a cheat with the car there. I saw the cars. Have I lost communication with Faith? Faith, are you still there? Oh, big holes. I think I've lost comms with Faith. So I think we're going to send you away. I'm not sure to who while I try get to the 5 boys.
So we've left our Birmingham males, unfortunately, not even an eye opened on either of them, and so we decided we're going to leave them for now and just go and do a little few loops around, see if maybe there's any sign of Hosanna from where he was last night. He wasn't far from the Chitwa boundary, so we're just scratching around, just having a little look. We might head back towards the Birminghams a little bit later. It's actually getting colder by the second, and so maybe they might decide to wake up towards the sort of end of drive, and so we'll go and check back in there. Also, at the end of the day, if they don't do anything this morning, we will be back here this afternoon, and hopefully you get a little bit more kind of activity out of them, because they really are fast asleep, and there is no movement whatsoever. I was also just standing around trying to see if there's anything that could potentially wake them up, so in terms of impalas or waterbuck or wildebeest or anything like that, and there's really very little. In fact, there was nothing. There was one impala very far away, and so I don't think there's going to be too much stimulus to get them going just yet, and so let's go and see what else there is around, and then we'll pop back in a little bit later, and hopefully they might be a little bit more active. Now, I was addressing the question about where the Birminghams get their name. Well, their name comes from where they spent time. So where they were born. They were born in an area called Birmingham, which is a farm north of us. So it's we call them farms, but it's a section of land that is part of the Djuma Private Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger National Park, and that area is called Birmingham, and so the pride that they come from is the Birmingham Pride, and therefore the Birmingham name stuck with them as they moved down towards the Sabi Sands. And so it's just that they come from a different area, and that area is called Birmingham, and this is why they've got that name. It's quite a simple thing, really. At the end of the day, we see a lot of these kind of things with lions, is according to where they are, or where they're from, is where they get their names. But I wonder where little Hosanna went. I don't know if anybody's found him this morning. It sounds like everybody's been too busy with the Styx Pride. The Styx Pride are on a nets at the moment, the little cubs, and one of the Birminghams apparently joined there. So right on the nets, Cheetah Plains cut line. And so I don't think anyone's actually looked for Hosanna. So it might be quite nice for us just to check the boundary and just to double check where we were yesterday, where he was seen, if maybe, just maybe, he's around. You never know. It's always good to catch up with Hosanna, and there could potentially be any other leopard. We're also looking for any signs of Tamba or Tandi or Kuchava these days, I suppose, in this area. This is Kuchava's territory and her sort of place that she spends a lot of time, and so that's why we're going to have a little look around. A couple of hardy-dars that have landed and making a lot of noise on the edge of the runway here. We'll stop and have a little look at them now. It's quite strange to see so many hardy-dars together. Normally you just see the pairs together, but maybe that's why there's so much noise, is because there is a rival grouping that has arrived in the neighborhood, and that's causing everybody to get a little on the upset side. And there they are. So you often find them feeding in places like this. They do like kind of disturbed areas where they'll use that long beak to be able to dig up all kinds of insects. So they go after grasshoppers and crickets and locusts and all those kind of things. And crickets particularly, if you've got especially if you're in anywhere like Johannesburg and particularly the golf courses, they have a nightmare over time, because lots of crickets and these guys come along and make holes everywhere. So not great if you try to have a golf course in a nice smooth green to have birds on it and pecking away at the surface and then also defecating all over the place. So they're a bit of a pest to a lot of people in the cities, but they are actually quite a nice bird. I quite like hardy-dars, actually. I know they make a lot of noise, and they are generally quite sort of brash birds, and that noise is not pleasant, but I don't know, they seem alright, and especially out here in this kind of environment, I really don't have too much of a problem with them when we're in the bush and kind of they in their natural habitat. The only time I ever had an issue with a hardy-dar was when it used to sit on my window and call at 4 o'clock in the morning when I was at school, and that wasn't very pleasant at all. It seems like a squirrel alarm calling, also not too far away. And I wonder if with these guys, they're sort of their noise that they're making, the fact that they flew up, I wonder if maybe something's not lurking around here that could potentially explain why the squirrel is also alarm calling. I just want to go and see where the squirrel is. Obviously, squirrels are not very good when it comes to being reliable in any way, and are not great when it comes to being able to kind of sort of trust them with a predator, but it's worthwhile just to listen and to hear, and if you hear them, just to investigate. It costs us nothing just to have a little look around here and just double check where that squirrel might be calling from. And so, Becca, you're asking what is the ratio of birds nesting on the ground versus those in the trees? Oof, I'm not sure. I can tell you that here in the Sabi Sands we have a lot more tree nesters than we do ground nesting birds. Of the ground nesting birds that we have out here, we have lapwings, we have plovers, we have thickneys, coursers. They're all nesting on the ground. But if you think about all the other birds that we get here, there's far more that are nesting in the trees. What the actual percentage is of each, I seriously cannot tell you, and I don't think there is a figure anywhere in relation to exactly where we are. I don't think anybody's actually studied that in the Sabi Sands, but I would imagine that it must be at least a sort of 70-30% split, or maybe even more than that. So I don't think it would be lower. If you think about the number of birds that are tree nesters, I mean, all the waxbills, firefinches, shrikes, cuckoos, the list goes on, birds of prey. It's pretty much, I would say, actually probably even 80% of our birds that we see here are tree nesters as opposed to ground nesters. So not very many birds on the ground, and the reason for that is because of the amount of predators in an environment like this. We've got lions, we've got leopards, we've got hyenas, we've got genets, civets, servals, caracals, snakes, monitor lizards. There's birds of prey. There's so many types of predators that being on the ground is a tough ask. It's not easy for those animals to be able to raise their chicks and to keep them alive, and so you end up with a situation where very few of the birds nest on the ground just for that reason. A lot more will be nesting up in the trees and places like that, where they at least can have some sort of protection either from the tree itself in the form of a thorn tree, or if they're nesting inside the tree and are able to actually kind of find a hole that they can then protect, like the hornbills and barbets and woodpeckers and the likes. But there's talking about birds and being on the ground, is beautiful guinea fowls that are generally running around on the ground. They typically are down. If you see these guys in the trees and calling, then you know something is up and that there should be a predator nearby. They very seldom are up in the trees, and if they are, it's normally around sunset that they're up there to roost for the night. But if they during the day and at a time like this they were up in the trees, we would know something was not right and that we should be on the lookout for some sort of predator. So they're a nice indicator, much more reliable than what you see from the squirrels. If they are alarm calling, you generally know something is up. They're such odd birds, aren't they? The way that they kind of run around, spend their time on the ground, that very prehistoric looking head that they have, bright blue in coloration as well. It's all quite odd. You would expect a bird that's hunted so much by varying predators that it would try and be a bit more camouflaged like the francolins, but for some reason guinea fowls have managed to survive and proliferate even though they do have bright blue heads and move around. Right, now I believe that we've said hello to Brent and we've said hello to Taylor, and I've said hello too, but there's one member of the team that's been missing this morning who's now out and ready to go and wants to say hello, so let's quickly jump across to Jamie and see what she's been up to for the morning.
Hello, good morning, and I'm sorry I'm late. My name is Jamie, and this morning Fergus is on camera with me. Hello. And basically the story is I meant to set my alarm for, I'm going to be honest, I meant to set my alarm for 4:30, but I actually woke up at 5:30. And we had a really long way to go because we were off on a 2-day adventure to go off in search of cheetah. And I left late, unfortunately. But we're out, we're here on the sunrise safari, and apparently the zebra this morning are having quite a lazy morning as well. I'm so sad the one's up now, because one of them was out cold. He was fast asleep on its side. And there we go. It's been a bit of a chilly morning this morning. The sun's taken a while to break through the clouds. And I think that these zebra are just really enjoying a little bit of time in the sun Warming up after a cold night. Oh, isn't that just the best? Use the dirt to get to all those itches on its back. I love watching zebra roll in the dirt. It is so thoroughly entertaining because they really look like they're having fun. Yes, we're talking about you. Yes, we are. And don't forget to send through your questions on hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter. It sounds as though we had quite a dramatic morning with Brent. Our plan for the morning is to check across for the Ridge Pride, see if we can find them. Bless you, Fergus. You're right there.
Sorry, I was trying to do that surreptitiously.
So, and I called you out. Apologies. Fergus is having a little sneeze in the back. So we're going to go search for Blackie, Lipstick and the Ridge Pride. Blackie and Lipstick. Blackie and Lipstick for our new viewers. Guess what Blackie and Lipstick are? Yes, guess what they are? They are male lions, magnificent male lions, really beautiful, massive, black-maned male lions. They are known as collectively as the 4 kilometer boys, with a Z. Please don't forget the Z, otherwise it's just not right. While we look at stripy zebras, you're wondering about, another roll in the ground, and we've been talking a little bit about lions. You're wondering about whether there are any other cats without spots or stripes apart from lions. Technically, lions do have spots, actually. They do actually have spots if you look on their bellies that are sort of there remaining there from when they were cubs. It's more prominent on the lioness than it is on a male lion. But you will see that all female lions do have remnants of spots. Wild cats don't have spots. They have patterns on the backs of their ears, but they don't have spots. So there's an example of a cat that doesn't. In terms of big cats, let's think throughout the world. Mountain lions? Cougars and pumas? I don't know if they've got little... Caracal don't have spots. There we go. Caracal's a very good one. Caracals don't have spots. And they don't have stripes. They do have black tufty ears, which are beautiful, but they are russet red in colour and not spotty or stripy at all. Now, the interesting thing, of course, is why things have spots and stripes, and nobody actually knows while we watch the zebra scratch its head. Well, it's not that nobody knows, it's just that there's differences in opinion as to why zebra have stripes in the way that they do, because they are, of course, the only thing that has lots of things of spots, but they are the only thing that has black and white stripes. So the question is, why do they have black and white stripes? And there's a couple of different explanations. One, of course, is the camouflage, particularly when they're running together in a big herd. It's disruptive colouring, so it breaks up their outline and it makes it difficult to single out an individual. Second is thermoregulation. That's a theory that's been put forward. Black stripes heat up faster than white stripes, creating microcurrents of air across the skin to help to cool the blood. And then there is also the idea of interfering with insects' vision. So there are biting flies, there are all kinds of flying, biting insects, and the idea is that the stripes actually interfere with their landing strategy, and because they can't see properly, the idea is that it disrupts them. It doesn't always work, because you will find flying, biting insects like tsetse flies on zebra, but one of the papers that I read suggested that it's a great deal less than on other animals. So there you go, talking of patterns of skin and coloration. There's a couple of different explanations as to why zebbies have stripes. It works out very well for us because it makes them very photogenic. Fantastic to photograph in black and white. Yes, absolutely. The tsetse flies are active with all of the rains. I got nabbed by one probably, I would say, about a week ago when I was on the other side of the river, which is where I am now. Yay! Yes, the tsetse flies are out and about. There's certain areas that are worse than others, and we actually found a few, apparently. They don't seem to like me, which is unusual, because most things like me. Most insects like to bite me, is what I was trying to say. And I find that tsetse flies don't tend to target me in particular. They really, really like Brent. Ferg, how have you been with the tsetse flies?
I haven't had one here, but in Zambia they thought I was very tasty.
So in Zambia, the tsetse flies really enjoyed biting Ferg. They are, of course, more numerous there. And the nice thing here is that the wind helps to keep them at bay. So yes, the tsetse flies are active. I've only been bitten about 3 times since I arrived in the Mara. Brent's probably on around about 100, and you'll probably get some strange and peculiar variation of sleeping sickness to go with his 29 cases of malaria. Something somewhere around that region. But yes, the tsetse flies are out. And so are the regular flies, actually. Oh, he beat me to it. Speaking of Brent, he has already made his way across the Runkai Valley, which is what I was going to try and do, but he had a massive head start. And he's gone from battling lion coalitions to, I hope, a relatively peaceful cheetah coalition.
Indeed, indeed. What a morning. It's a morning of 5s. 5 male lions, 5 cheetah boys. And there they are. There are some topi around, but they are well aware that the cheetahs are here. Now, it looks like they're taking a break. They do look quite hungry, the cheetah. So there are some wildebeest across the next valley, so they might be heading in that general direction. Now, topi, don't get too cheeky. These are the musketeers, after all. As you can see, they're paying almost no attention to the topi. Remember, this is live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. There we go. Topi snorting at the general direction of the 5 boys. Well, 2 of them seem to have spotted something behind us. As I said, there are some herds of wildebeest around, and actually some not too far away. If they start looking a little bit to their right, they might notice there's wildebeest much closer. But there are a herd of Tommies there as well that are keeping a close eye on them. What a magnificent morning in the Mara. Now, on the 5 boys, I think they're still quite hungry. I think they might hunt. So I might not move from this position. I might even ask Jamie to bring me some lunch. Anna-Marie says, great find. Anna-Marie, there was a little bit of cheating involved. I was looking for them, so I was in the right area, but we got sidetracked by that coalition of male lions. Oh, I wish I could. I'm going to send off, see if we can find out who those lions are. But I did see a couple of cars together about 2.5 kilometers from us on top of the hill, and I saw the cheetah through my binoculars waltzing across. Now, as I said, a nice cool morning. I don't think they're done moving yet. I just think they're taking a quick break. Pokemon, a new viewer, a big welcome to Safari Live. Pokemon is wondering, would they let me pet them? No, they would not. These are wild cheetah, and it would be not good for them. They would more than likely run away. There's never been a recorded case of cheetahs attacking an adult human, but they will try avoid adult humans. Humans are the dominant diurnal predator, so they would probably run away if we got out of the car and tried to pet them. Now, Pokemon, I can't resist. Since your handle is Pokemon, I've got a joke for you. And the joke is, how do you get Pikachu on a bus? Pokemon. There we go. That was from my 6-year-old godson. But there we go. Isn't that wonderful? Topi's still keeping a very close eye on them. Now, a coalition of 5 males like this is quite capable of bringing down an adult male topi. Normally, cheetahs prefer smaller prey, but when there's 5 of you, there's D'Artagnan rolling over. He's the one with the collar. There he is. Morning, D'Artagnan. As far as I know, the other males so far are called 1, 2, 3, and 4. And he looks like he has eaten something, but I say they're not full by any means. Possibly caught something very small last night. I do love the way cheetah roll over. Oh, there's a marabou stork flying in there, near the topee, about above the topee. There we go. There we go. The undertaker of the African bush, the marabou stork. Even got his black and white suit on. Look, there we go. They do look like undertakers. No offense to any undertakers you might be watching. You'll see their legs are very, very white. Now, their legs are not actually white. Their legs are dark grey. And their legs are white because they defecate on their legs. And they do that to actually help with cooling. So that is why a stork will defecate on his legs. And that's why they come across as white. So if he obviously got a nice dry spot to sleep last night, because after the rain, often they have very dark legs. There's another one coming in there, Seb. Going to join the other, possibly. Also managed to find a nice dry spot behind the car. I didn't quite catch the name. Someone was asking why D'Artagnan has a collar on him. He is part of an ongoing study on cheetahs in the Masai Mara. So he is one of the study subjects. So it is one of the ways to be quite unobtrusive. So once that collar's on, it'll be on a mechanism that will power it for 2 years before it will then jump off. So they don't need to dart him again to take these new collars off. So it has a electronically timed latch, and as soon as the battery gets to a certain point, that latch will release. Now, it is also a satellite collar, and so that means the researchers are able to ping the collar and get a location. It's normally twice a day, and with cheetah it'll be 6 in the morning when they are moving, or it will be again at sort of probably 6, 7 at night when they normally stop moving. Although we do know these boys like to move around in darkness. I followed them one night. They kept moving till about 1 a.m. And actually, the next morning, they killed the wildebeest probably about 100 meters from where we're sitting right now. Elizabeth is wondering, how much does a male cheetah weigh? It all depends, Elizabeth. These guys are reaching into adulthood now. They probably weigh probably around 50 kilograms, 45 to 50 kilograms. They are a lot lighter than leopards or lions. There are records of cheetah being upward of 60 kilograms, but those are normally in captivity. They have an incredibly fast digestive system as well. So the meat they do eat, they burn through very quickly, which means they've got to hunt quite regularly. And of all the big cats, they are the most successful of hunters, but unfortunately for them, they don't often get to keep their food, as it is stolen from them by either hyenas or lions. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move past them quickly. I just want to have a look if we can still see those male lions in the distance. We are looking up the valley that those 5 male lions were moving into. And also to see if there's any potential prey towards that area. Oh, a two-shot for you, Sebastian. I know all cameramen love a good two-shot. Let me just get a bit wider then. You happy? There we go. Sebastian is happy. So there are some Thompson's gazelles behind them, but they are well aware they're there. Oh, marabou stork flying through the Thompson's gazelles. So what happened is I think the marabou stork spotted the five boys and thought, ooh, there's a chance for a free meal. And having decided that the boys actually haven't made a kill and there's no scraps to be picked, let's go look for something else. Now, those male lions. Faith, I copy you. So, oh, there goes the next marabou stork. Now, oh, isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, the hills of the Eastern Mara in the background. Now we can see our very interesting. So Seb, when the stork lands, which he looks like he's about to in the tree, next to a tawny eagle. Beautiful, lovely camera work, Seb. So you see in the distance over there, that one car over there, our crew cut friend has decided it's not worth joining the rest of that coalition. He's actually moving in the opposite direction. I don't know if do you see it? Across the valley,
So is it across the
you see the car moving.
yes, all right.
So to the left, there we go. A little bit to the right of him. There we go. There's our male lion just to the left.
Yeah, behind the car.
Behind the car, he's decided those four boys are too big a bullies. He's going to try make it out on his own or find another coalition of males. Now, aha, I see what is happening here. I think I've just moved the car slightly, which means I'm not copying Faith all the time. So Faith, do you hear me? Okay, well, we're going to sit tight with the five boys. I'm pretty sure they're going to move again quite shortly. So while they have a little cat nap, let's see if Tristan's cats are napping or awake.
So we've come back to our male lions because, well, as you can see, one of them is awake. Tinyo was up for all of about 2 seconds and then flopped back down again. But Mfumo seems to be quite awake. He's watching, looking around, he's checking down towards the lodge. So I don't know if there's maybe something that's caught his attention, but he's definitely far more awake than when we were here earlier. He keeps kind of putting his nose up to the breeze as well. There's a bit of a wind blowing. You can see his mane is just sort of fluffing in the breeze a bit. It's not a strong wind just yet, but I think he's picking up some sort of a scent. It is coming from the southeast, which means that is where the Sticks and one of his coalition members is, and maybe he's picking up their scent. I'm not 100% sure. It's a bit far, I would imagine, for that scent to drift all this way, but you never know. Maybe he has picked up some sort of sign, but he keeps looking around and keeps scenting the breeze, or sniffing the breeze, like I say, and just kind of taking everything in. So we decided we'd come back and just see what they get up to. Maybe he decides to move, but he's also sitting in the most regal male lion way you could ask for. He's kind of got his head up, watching what's going on. 2 front paws are kind of straight out in front of him, very sphinx-like, isn't it? And kind of quite beautiful, actually. He's looking seriously good, Mfumo. He's looking a lot better than Tinyo. Tinyo's looking quite scarred and battled and kind of as though he's had a rough few days, whereas Mfumo looks as good as I've seen him look in a long time. He really worried about him this time. Was it last year? Or the year before? No, it was last year when he had the big hole in his face and was having a few issues with that, and it didn't really look very nice at all. And you can see that's all healed up quite well. And I actually think his scars add to his appearance. And Mfumo's got these kind of big scars under the right eye, and you can see where he kind of healed up on his face, and there's that big cut that goes from the right eye downwards, which is one of the sort of ID features of Mfumo, and the easiest way is to tell who he is. But slowly, I think, starting to fall asleep again, although there you go, see, he just smells the wind every now and then just to pick up what's going on. Pokemon, you're asking what happened to the 5th Birmingham. So the 5th Birmingham, unfortunately, he died last year. I think it was last year May. Was it last year? Yes, last year May, and he died. And he, as far as we understand, in a hunt with buffalo, it looks like he unfortunately got a buffalo horn that went into his chest and punctured his lung, and he unfortunately then died from that. That's what the autopsy revealed. And so he died up on Buffelshoek side. And so, unfortunately for him, it wasn't a great way to go. It's never nice when you have a situation where an animal suffers a bit. He was in bad shape for a few days, unfortunately, before he was able to come right. Now, I'm going to just probably move forward a little bit. There's a vehicle in front of us for a while, and so I want to move forward so we get that sort of view of Mfumo looking straight down the hill and down towards us, because he looks as regal could be, if you ask me. There we go. How's that? Yeah. Is that good? If he faces us, it's going to be good, I think. You can see there's a few clouds, but the sun is slowly but surely coming out. Maybe that's why Mfumo has also popped his head up, is maybe the little bit of sunshine that's kind of been hitting him on the face, which just allowed him to kind of wake up and sort of think about where he's going to put his head and where he's going to sleep. His shade is ultimately diminishing by the second. You can see his little tail is sticking out in a bit of the sunshine, and the top of his head as well. And so he's, I think, going to have to seek... Oh, and down we go again. No. I was hoping he was going to stay head up and move around and maybe get up and move towards Tinyo, but it seems as though he's just flopping down onto the ground again and is going to go back to sleep and back to the usual position. But at least we got him up and sort of looking around for a little bit. It wasn't very long, but it's better than them just sleeping and taking it very easy. We've got to see how good he's looking these days. I was also hoping that we would find some sort of sign of Hosanna, but no sign at all, so I wonder where he's gone. Rashni, you're asking, will the Birmingham boys try and expand their territory? I think they already are. I think they're moving into areas and spending more time in places that is quite far from where we've seen them. I haven't heard of the Birminghams up on Buffelshoek for a number of weeks now. Well, since I've been back from leave, I don't think the Birminghams have been up there. They've been in Torchwood a little bit, but otherwise not up into Buffelshoek. They seem to have concentrated a lot more down to the south. I think there's this Kambula Pride that's on Mala that they are focusing on and starting to try and get in there. I think there's a few females that are coming into Eastrus, and maybe it's dragging them a bit further south onto Mala. They've also been going into Londolozi and a little bit even into Ottawa, which is a property that sits west of Elephant Plains and Simambili and is part of the Singita traversing area. And so they are definitely moving more and more. Whether or not they're going to carry on and keep going and head off into a different area altogether, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if they will. It seems to be this pattern that happens in this area. I don't know why it is, but we seem to keep having the same situation, which is, first we had the Mapojos that were up in here. They then, unfortunately, one of them was killed and one then moved down back to the west. And then we had the Majingalans that were here and spent a lot of time, and they then moved down to the west. Then the Matimbas came through and they then moved to Londolozi, and of course then we pushed back and are now nomadic to some degree. And now the Birminghams, who seem to be following a similar trait and starting to move deeper into Londolozi and further southwest than we've seen them go for quite some time. So I think at the end of the day, yes, they might expand their territory. A lion's going to expand until he meets resistance, and at the end of the day, the aging Majingalans and are only getting older. The Birminghams are still young if you consider a sort of male lion, and so I think eventually they're going to unfortunately just outlive the Majingilans, and that means that they might push that way. And there's no other real big coalitions that are forging into this area at the moment. We've seen no pressure from the north of male lions coming from that side. We've seen very little male lion pressure from the east coming in from Kruger, and the only male lions that theoretically could be a force to be reckoned with and something that could really sort of disturb the Birminghams is that coalition of 5 right down in the south of the Sabi Sands and into the Kruger Park. But I think they're really dominant individuals that have set up their territory, and the chances of them pushing all the way up to here is very, very slim. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting. I think the Birminghams at this stage have almost a free reign over the Sabi Sands in that they can move quite a long way without too much difficulty. I mean, at the end of the day, the only other males out here are all youngsters. The Avoca males, the Salala males, they are in no way as experienced, and there's no way that they are as big as the Birminghams. So it's going to be interesting. I think they might start kind of forging, and particularly if the Salala Pride and the Mangen Pride and all these various other prides that are in the central and western Sabi Sands, females start coming into estrus, you never know. I mean, a male lion can move a long way. It just takes these guys to start moving and checking and finding these lionesses, and soon we'll have a situation where they're expanding their territory massively and are going out. The thing is, what's been interesting is following all of these male lion coalitions over the years, and particularly in this area, is that as they expand out, they tend to almost forget about the area that they've left, and with the Majingilans they just moved out, and the Matimbas came in, and it was almost like it wasn't worth coming back this way and pushing the Matimbas out. They found so much space to the southwest that they just used that rather than coming back this way. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting call as to where these Birminghams go and what pressure comes. I think if we start to see coalitions coming from the south or maybe the east, that might keep the Birminghams up here in the north, but if we start to see a big coalition coming from the north, that might push them southwards and west into the Sabi Sands. Randomness. Lions do sleep like this out in the open fairly regularly. I mean, today is a bit of a different story to yesterday. Yesterday was much hotter. The sun was blazing at this time, and so it would have been uncomfortable for a male lion to be out in the open like this, and would have been really difficult. So he would have been finding some shade. But yes, lions do like open clearings. Often you will find lions in the Sabi Sands lying in places like this. In fact, Chitwa Open, I've seen many, many, many lions on this open area. They like lying here. It's got a big field of view that they can see. There's water close by, and so it is common. It's not uncommon to see lions like this. They're not like leopards that prefer denser, thicker areas, although they will cross through those places and they will sometimes hunt in them. Most of the time lions like to walk in these open clearings and see what's going on and try and kind of utilize that to their advantage. So it's not uncommon at all, and I would imagine by this afternoon these two males they still will be here, but they might have moved a little bit just to follow a bit of shade, particularly if the sun does come out, although it seems to just be getting cloudier and cloudier. So it seems as though we're getting in a situation where we're going to probably have a bit of a cold front. So you can see lots of clouds rolling in and over the sunshine and blocking the sun out. So I think it's going to be a situation where these guys won't have to worry too much about shade this afternoon. Right, well, I think probably we're going to carry on now that Mfumo has gone back to sleep, and so while we go and try and see what else we can find, let's go back to Taylor McCurdy and see what she's been up to and whether or not she's had any luck this morning.
Well, Tristan, we took one of those roads that sort of never ends and winds in all the directions that we didn't want it to wind in, but we had some fun. But we're back again now. One thing I do want to tell you is, you know how I always talk about the Lozabisi National Park and the fact that one of the things that I miss is seeing cattle egrets sitting on elephants. We didn't see cattle egrets on elephants, but we saw cattle egrets around elephants, which was quite cool. It was a nice little herd, but just unfortunately the gremlins kept getting us. But it was something I hadn't seen for such a long time. And there were a couple of big flocks of them. So maybe as the rainy season comes about and a lot of these areas start to turn into marshes, we're going to see more cattle egrets, because that's the sort of preferred habitat that they do prefer. And then elephants love moving through them too. So that's something quite exciting, and hopefully we will see it maybe towards the end of November, and then again when the big rains come. sort of anywhere from after February to about April. We'll start having a look for that. That's a sighting to add to the bucket list, is to have not elephants on cattle egrets. That would be terrible. We don't want to see that. We want to see the cattle egrets on top of the elephants, or even just to see them moving amongst the elephants. It's quite pretty, having the green grass and then of course the dark contrast of the elephant and then the bright white just in and amongst them. It's very, very nice. So we're approaching the escarpment, and there's a variety of animals that we could see around here. We could potentially see a female cheetah that Brent had found that had a den. We think she may have moved it though, so we're keeping an eye out for her. This is also the 2 Sausage Tree Pride's territory from around here onwards, so we could see some lions as well. And well, because it's safari, who knows, there might be a leopard up in one of these Balanites trees. So we're keeping an eye out for a variety of different animals, which is quite nice. It's been big gaps, no luck on the leopard of course. I don't know where he is, but Brent did warn me. Brent said to me, he said, Taylor, if you try and you go look for that leopard, you won't find him. He says you just bump into him, and this is only the first time I've actually gone to go and look for him. So we'll see, but he's done it a couple of times and searched and turned over every rock and hasn't been able to get him. It's okay. We'll get it eventually. I think I see some more. There's some mongoose just popping their heads out. Let's see if they're gonna. There they are. They're climbing up onto a termite mound so that they can see us better. They're just ducking through the grass now, running towards the end. It looked like they were banded mongoose. Now they've all stopped again and running away. And we're not having luck today, are we? That's okay then. It's just one of those things. The bush is not always kind to you. Sometimes it makes you work. Other days it hands you animals on a silver platter. But that's okay. Okay, so what we're going to do... Still just scanning, so bumpy. Still just scanning around here, but I think it'll be a good move for us to get towards the escarpment. Okay, sorry, Faith, I was struggling with the question earlier, but I got this one. Now it's from Pokemon, and you were wondering if I've ever seen a mongoose take on a snake before. Not that I can really recall, but you know who has had a really cool sighting? And next time you are on board with Jamie, you have to ask her about the sighting with the dwarf mongoose and the boom slug. Because that was amazing. I think I was sitting in Final Control. I wasn't on drive. No, I may have been on Game Drive, but we went back and we watched it. She had an incredible one, so I won't tell you too much about that. We'll save that, and that can be Jamie's story. Of course, it is her story. I've seen a mongoose eating a snake, but like a little one, like a brown house snake, but I didn't see it kill it or anything like that. I think you're going to be super lucky to come across sightings like that. But again, some people have more luck with seeing smaller things and, you know, sightings like that. Other people have better luck with seeing, predators taking down prey, that type of thing. And you know what, I was just telling you, speaking about small sighting, Jahawi was just telling me, and it's a dream sighting of mine, about the time on the Tanzanian border, we were talking about ostriches and finding ostrich nests, and I said I want to be the first one to find an ostrich nest in the Mara. And he said that he's actually seen the chick watch the hatching process of ostriches. How amazing is that? So I think over the next few days, I might be stealing Jahawi, and we're going to go and we're going to drive along the Tanzanian border, all that sort of western corner. We can look for the leucistic hyena. We can look for, there's a cheetah down there that's supposedly got some cubs as well. And then we need to start looking for nesting sites too. Because wouldn't that be absolutely amazing to see? I don't know how. I don't think Wild Earth has ever filmed the ostriches hatching before. I don't think there's many places out there that have, you know, seen things like that. I'm sure there's lots of documentaries about it, of course. But to catch it just at the right moment would be too lucky. So that's another sighting on my wish list. Now, where are the animals? Not much around here. That's okay. We'll keep moving. Maybe we'll have better luck the further north we go. Jamie, however, has found herself a creature that if we don't go to her very quickly, might run away.
Quickly, it's running away as we speak, and Taylor's absolutely right. Thank goodness she linked to us when she did, because otherwise it would be long gone, and we'd just be left in a cloud of its dust. Look at it go. That is at least, I don't know, 1/4 kilometer per hour, maybe? Yeah, I would say 50 meters per hour. Let's say that. Right, so this is the first leopard tortoise I've seen in the Masai Mara. I know Brent's seen a few, and he mentioned that he saw an absolutely massive one a couple of days ago. But I have not. I've seen lots of terrapins, but this is the first leopard tortoise I've seen. So I'm very excited because I love tortoises. And it's really lovely to see them again. It's their legs, I think. There's something intriguing about the way that their legs work. In that bony shell of theirs. Look at you go! Marching along. This road's a dangerous road. First baby Tommies, now hidden tortoises. One has to be exceptionally careful when driving along it. Because it's so rocky, if there is anything that looks vaguely like a rock, it's quite a lot harder to spot. Fortunately, this one moves, which rocks tend not to except in exceptionally high winds. So we're okay there. Now, speaking of reptiles, Taylor, of course, mentioned the sighting that we had with a dwarf mongoose and a boomslang. And it was a long time ago. We'd been following Karula, and we'd found where she'd stashed a kill. We'd actually seen her make the kill. And we all of a sudden came upon a dwarf mongoose and a boomslang locked in a battle of wills. And while there wasn't any kind of a fight, it was fascinating to watch. And I'll tell you the full story in a little bit. But let's go. I'm going to try and get ahead of this tortoise. I'm not sure if we can manage it. The speed that he's going is just so extraordinary that I'm not sure that I can match it. But I'll give it a go. I'll give it a really good go. Hold on, everyone. Give him plenty of space so he doesn't disappear into his shell. Now, once we get to his face, we did it, everyone. It was high-speed stuff, but we've managed it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There we go. Hopefully he continues to come towards us. Now that we've got a good look at our tortoise's front half, we have a question, and I apologize, I haven't heard exactly who it came from, about the difference between a tortoise and a terrapin. Aegis, you want to know the difference between a tortoise and a terrapin. The difference is that, so tortoises have feet and they live on land. Terrapins have webbed feet and they move between land and water. Tortoises eat grass and so on. Terrapins eat little crustaceans and little mollusks and anything that they can find in the water. Tadpoles, something like that. So although a leopard tortoise can swim, a leopard tortoise is the only tortoise species that can swim. Terrapins are basically water-based, but they can move on land, whereas tortoises are land-based. A turtle is a thing with flippers that lives in the sea. So those are the fundamental differences between the different types of creatures. And there's a tendency to use turtle as a all-encompassing term for the Chelonians, which is disrespectful to them, because they are different kinds entirely. It's not that disrespectful. I don't think the tortoises mind. So that's the big difference. Now, this is the leopard tortoise, and given that it's the only tortoise that I've seen, it's the only species that I know occurs in the Mara. I'm not sure what other tortoise species are there. And if you look at the shape of a terrapin has a much flatter shell. It doesn't have this dome-shaped shell that the leopard tortoise has. They're quite a lot more streamlined. Even the biggest terrapins that we see on Djuma are slightly more streamlined for swimming. Oh, this is not fun terrain for you, is it, buddy? I can't, at this angle, see if she's a boy or a girl. Take care, no, tortoises do not have spines. What they do obviously have is the really seriously hard shell. Now that shell is bone, and when you look inside a tortoise shell, once the tortoise is deceased and has rotted away, you'll actually be able to see the spine and the ribs on the inside attached to it. And then what it has overlapping it is scales called scutes, and they're made of keratin. And they are layered up bit by bit. So if you look really carefully, you can see the grooves on the tortoise's shell. And that basically comes from periods of growth. Now, obviously, we know tortoises estivate when it gets dry. So they go into periods where their metabolism is very, very slow, and then obviously they don't grow. Then times like this, when it's nice and wet and there's plenty for them to eat, then they go through a growth spurt. So in theory, and please don't think that this is actually possible, in theory you could count the ridges on the tortoise's shell and you could kind of guess at its age. The reason that doesn't work, it's not like rings on a tree. The reason that doesn't work is because naturally they don't always estivate, so they might have a longer period of growth, or they might estivate twice in a year, and then of course towards the top of the scales they're rubbed smooth, so you can't actually see whether or not the tortoise has grown one year to the next. But they are long-lived creatures and slow growers. Ah, well spotted, curious one. That, I think, is because this has been quite a lucky tortoise indeed. I don't know exactly what happened there, but so curious one is wondering about those patches of white on the tortoise's shell. That's where the hard keratin layer has actually been pulled off and moved off, and that is why I think this is a lucky tortoise, because I think when it was quite possibly a bit younger, I think it's possible that it was caught by something like a curious lion or a leopard. And when tortoises are small, when lions catch them, they tend to crunch right through the shell. And as you saw with little Shungile, and of course for Tommy as well, the leopard cubs also like to eat small tortoises and terrapins. Now, I think that those are places where it's, and to me it looks, just in terms of the way that it's almost, not quite symmetrical, but it's definitely present on both sides. I would say that was where the mouth of a hyena or a lion or a leopard clamped around the tortoise, and obviously it was big enough that it was just not worth the effort to crack open its shell, and as a result has walked away from the experience, a little battle scarred, but alive nevertheless. That's what I think happened there. It's definitely missing pieces of keratin. There we go, naturable. So we've already discussed lions, leopards and hyenas. They will all predate on tortoises. There are certain bird species that will also catch tortoises, fly them up and drop them from a great height. Those would be the raptor species. So something like I've never seen it, but apparently there are cases of where martial eagles have grabbed small tortoises. And then the biggest, I would say the biggest predator of tortoises would be something like a hyena or a young leopard that is struggling, because obviously they're quite easy to catch. I know we've given you a false impression about their speed, and as you can see, this tortoise is motoring along, but they are actually quite easy to catch for something like a leopard. They tend not to run quite as fast as the little Thompson's gazelle. Cheetah, I imagine, will avoid them. They might curiously have a nibble, but they probably won't be able to eat them. One of the weirdest things I ever saw was a tortoise that died as a result of being stepped on by an elephant. That was a very, very strange thing to see. Squashed tortoise right in the middle of an elephant track. And I found myself imagining that the elephant running, because it was running, the elephant. It was clear from its tracks it was racing along. I found myself imagining it looking back with great guilt, or perhaps curiosity, wondering what on earth had made that strange sound. Sammy Jane? Where is it now in real life? I've had my head down on the monitor.
2:30.
Oh, there we go. Got it. Thanks, Ferg. Sammy Jane, you want to know how old this tortoise is? I don't know. I would say that it's probably over 20 years old. It's quite a big tortoise. And as I said, they do grow slowly and they do have long life expectancies. So I'm guessing at somewhere around 20-ish, possibly even older. And of course, the famous slow-growing tortoise was the inspiration for for SEO trot. And the poor lady was so distressed that her tortoise just didn't want to grow. She obviously didn't watch enough Safari Live. Alright, our moving rock is moving it, well, actually stopped moving now, and has decided to have a rest. We're going to head on off. It sends you back across to Taylor, who has got something that probably moves faster than a tortoise.
Yes, probably when it flies. Look at this beautiful little insect. It looks like it's about to take off, though. You can see it's just starting to open up its wings. Oh, no, it's warmed up. Whee! And off it goes. That was so cool. I hope you got some screenshots of that very quick sighting. We've had this bug for quite some time and been trying to get it on camera. I'm not sure what it is. This little beetle-like thing. It did have some yellow markings on it. So I wonder if that was an aposematic coloration. Maybe it's toxic to some extent. So warning colors for other, well, for birds and whatever it might be trying to eat it. And then I love the fact that it's the top of its antenna was sort of a rusty color, rusty red, which was quite nice. So if you, maybe, I can't remember if I've ever seen anything like that. I know there was a little beetle that we would find on the morning glory flowers in the Sabi Sand that had similar sort of yellow markings like that, but it definitely didn't have the same type of antenna. So if you have got some screenshots, please could you share them, hashtag safariLIVE. Jahawi said he's got an insect book back at camp, so when we get back to camp at breakfast, instead of listening to morning meeting, we'll probably be identifying insects at the table, which is, I suppose, a normal thing when you're in the guiding industry. So that was quite nice. I think that's like oh no, I put a dung beetle on screen the other day, but I really, really, really miss bushwalks, and I cannot wait to get back to the Sabi Sand and do bushwalks during summer after all the rain. Just looking at some tracks here. I'm just quickly check if they're hyena or cheetah tracks. These are just the hyena that was walking here. Just there, obviously, after the rain last night. So we haven't had any luck with that cheetah den. We had a scan around. We saw another vehicle that has similar idea, also stopping, looking in the sort of gorge that her den was last, or where she was last seen, but no luck. So we're just going to keep checking around here and see if we can't find her. And then again, also we're looking for the sausage tree pride. I don't know if they've been sighted just yet. We might have to get a little bit higher up. Roshni, you're wondering, well, it's a great question. It's actually a funny story. You're wondering how much do I enjoy birding? Well, when I first started guiding, I thought it was the most boring thing in the whole world. Actually, when I was training to be a guide, and I was like, I'm not interested, don't care, I want to see the big animals, you know, typical young guide mentality. And anyways, when it came to doing exams and things like that and preparing for our final written exam, oh wow, think of this buffalo. I suppose we can look at an animal while I tell you stories. And my instructor sat me down and told me how pathetic I was at birding. He told me in a pretty harsh way. It was the best thing that he could have ever done. I think it was a tactic, because I then made it my mission to prove a point. I'm very competitive, and I love a challenge, and I love it when people tell me that I can't or I'm not good at something, because then I'll work really, really, really hard to try and prove them wrong. So I love birding. You can always improve at birding. Obviously, when you move to different areas, birding becomes a little bit more challenging. You might not know what birds occur there. So it's nice to add all these different countries to my list and seeing all these new birds. I'm quite excited to see where I'm at. And speaking of birds, there's an oxpecker just riding on the back of that buffalo. It sounds like it's a yellow-billed oxpecker, just from its call. Doesn't sound very, yes, it is a yellow-billed oxpecker. I can just see that bright yellow part on its beak and just having a great time. Buffalo, this is dangerous territory to be moving in all on your own. But I feel as though he's an older fella. He's probably got a lot of experience with lions and chasing them away. There he goes. And there's also some elephants. We'll have a look at the elephants in a minute, though. Now, Lord Beerus, you're wondering what is the most dangerous animal in Africa? probably the Anopheles mosquito. But if you're talking about mammals, hippos kill more people than the big five put together every single year. So they're particularly dangerous. Crocodiles, of course, are dangerous all over the world, whether it's so it just depends. But I would say probably the hippos. Buffalo also can be quite nasty too. But again, it just depends on what situation you get yourself in. But just up on the escarpment, just walking, is a herd of elephants, and it's so nice to see all the elephants. I am looking forward to seeing our South African elephant friends, though. I've been telling Jahawi and Elka about them. Bored them to death last night with stories. And but it is nice to just see these families. So they've had a bit of a late start. I think that they've come from quite high up on the escarpment. When we first spotted them, we obviously, because it's so open here, we could see them from a mile back, and they've been slowly making their way down, and some of the steeper points they ended up getting a bit of a speed wobble, but they've sort of headed back down to sort of more flat land where they'll be happier to feed along. But the grass is nice and green, I've noticed. It's sort of lovely and lush along the escarpment, then it sort of goes a bit more of a golden yellow colour the further you head towards the river, and then it starts to greenen up. But it is very nice, isn't it? Not a big herd though. Let me count them quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 or 13 elephants around here. No sign of a cheetah. All those rocks and with those big trees are good spots, good shady spots for lions, for leopards, for cheetah, but sadly nothing. Okay, well, we'll carry on with our adventure then. We're still scanning. We've still got a chance. Never know. Alright. Well, speaking about not having too much luck today, somebody who's had the complete opposite is Brent. He's with the cheetah. Let's go see what they're up to.
Well, they're still catnapping. It's a cool, cloudy morning. So I definitely, and they are hungry, so I definitely think it is worth playing the patience game with the cheetah. Now, while the cheetah are flat cats, I have a question for you about cheetah. And where does the word cheetah come from? The original origins of the word. Haha. Hashtag safariLIVE if you know the answer. Where does the original origins of the word cheetah come from? Now, it is a little bit of a trick question because there could be more than one origin of the word. Now, since they are flat, it's a great time to talk about them. Now, cheetah and human beings have quite a long history, and even back into the ancient times of the pharaohs. Because they are relatively easily tamed in comparison to the other big cats, they were often kept as pets, but working pets. And working pets, they were used as hunting animals. So what would happen, the ancient Egyptians used to use dogs to flush antelope. And then once the antelope was flushed and running and already stressed, they would release their hunting cheetahs. And in a lot of ancient cultures, you will see pictures of royalty with cheetah. So cheetah is very much associated with royalty. Now, of course, if you tried to keep a lion on a leash, it would probably eat you. Now, what I find quite amazing is that in certain cultures, the cheetah used to ride on the royal's saddle. They were trained to sit on a special seat behind the back of the rider. And once the dogs put the whatever animal out to flush, the cheetah would then be released and leap off the back of a horse to go attack its prey. Now, isn't that incredible? That's not something you would expect to hear. The cheetah used to ride on the back of horses. Now, Andy is wondering if lions, or we just saw, encountered the cheetah. Well, we can actually have a quick look. I think the camera might be better than binoculars in this case. I thought I saw one. But the lions are... Oh, get my hand in there. They're about over there, I think, the 4 males. We'll just have a quick look, see if we can see any light-coloured sleeping forms. So the wind is quite strong, and that could make it a little bit of bumpy for Seb. But they're sleeping somewhere around there. Now, Andy was wondering if those lions encountered the cheetah, would they kill them? If they could catch them, yes. And that goes for any lions encountering the cheetah. Lions are the biggest killers of cheetahs in Africa. So lions pose a huge threat to cheetah. But their heads are a little bit more up, or D'Artagnan at least, than they were a little earlier. He's sort of not lying completely flat with his head up. He's actually up on his elbows. Now, chatting a bit more about cheetah history. Now, I was saying the ancient Egyptians used to use them as hunting. Not only the ancient Egyptians, but the ancient Chinese emperors. And cheetah used to occur all the way through Mongolia and into Western China as well. Now, very interesting thing about cheetahs is their ancestors. It's thought that cheetah's ancestors, it's one of the few of the big cats that has its ancestry in the Americas. So they actually come from the Americas, and their closest living relative is, they've got two close living relatives. One is the puma and the one is the jagamundi, both types of cats from the Americas. Isn't that absolutely fascinating? And so they crossed the land bridge between Alaska and Russia through Greenland. Their ancestors did. They say about probably 5 or 6 million years ago when they crossed that land bridge. And it is absolutely fascinating, because there have been genetic bottlenecks, two in particular, over cheetah, one 100,000 years ago and one about 10,000 years ago. And they think it could be to do with changing terrain that has caused these bottlenecks of cheetah genetics, which has caused them to have a very, very low genetic variety between the individual populations. Chastity says Persian. Well, that's in the right area. It is quite right. But I'm looking for a little bit more detail. Henk says ancient Greek. Well, there's a good one. Akimetos, ancient Greek. Not quite there just yet. Faisal says India. Now that is half right. India is half right. Now we're getting closer. Well done, Kathy. You are spot on. It is from Sanskrit. From the Sanskrit, I think my pronunciation is probably horrible. Chichata, which means the spotted one. And then it was then taken from Sanskrit into Hindi. And the word cheetah that we use now actually comes from Hindi. Which they got from Sanskrit. And the first use of this word is recorded in 1610. Now, the Latin name of the cheetah is quite a cool one. It's Aesionix jubatus. And basically, Aesionix, which is a combination of akinatos and onyx. So, Henk, you were right. That is ancient Greek, and it comes from the rough translation, means a non-moving claw, referring to the cheetah's lack of retractable claws, like the other big cats, or other cats in general. And jubatus means maned. Now, cheetah do not have a mane, but they do have a prominent dorsal crest that they erect when they're upset or fighting. So there we go. Two different names. So jubatus means maned, and that's to do with the dorsal crest on the cheetah's back. And Aesionix is a combination of akinatos and onyx meaning non-moving claws. Tish says, is the cheetah population back on the rise? In certain parts of Africa, yes, the cheetah population is stable, this being one of them. And strangely enough, a lot of people don't realize that human beings have a lot to do with that, and not in the way you think. It's often not the conservation projects and whatnot that has caused cheetah populations in certain areas to rise. Of course, they do a lot of good, and especially in southern Africa, they have reintroduced cheetah into areas where they've been extinct for a long time. But it is normally in the rural farming areas, particularly in places like Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Namibia, where farmers have removed a lot of the lions and hyenas, and leopards for that matter, which creates a safer environment for cheetah. Cheetah don't really hassle livestock like the other three, so they are often ignored. So the cheetah populations, particularly in Namibia, have grown quite considerably due to the fact that the cattle farmers have removed lions and hyenas and leopards from the area. Philip is wondering, will one of the boys act a sentry while the rest sleep? No, Philip. They're all pretty much on sentry duty. So even while they're dozing, they're listening, listening and smelling. And if there's any potential threat, they will normally pick it up together. Sometimes one will pick it up before, and that is one of the reasons cheetah choose to sleep in areas like this. So you can see it's very open. It's difficult for another predator to sneak up on them. So we're going to continue to play the patience game with the Five Musketeers. While we do that, let's go back to my good friend Tristan to see what's happening back in South Africa.
One of the most beautiful birds that we see out here, it's a bird that we don't see very often at all, is the Burchell's cuckoo, and we've got two of them actually. There's a pair here, and both of them are kind of moving around in the undergrowth at the moment, and I love these birds because these birds are so clever. They have a situation where they're a bioindicator of rain, so when we hear them calling, we know rain is coming, and they have been calling the last few days, and so I think we might actually get a bit of rain. Now I'm trying to see if I reposition, maybe I can just get a view of them again, but there was two of them sitting so nicely in the open, and then they just flew as we went live, unfortunately, which is sometimes how it goes. But I think if we go around this little section here, we might be able to look back down the riverbed and actually see them. I don't know, VM, can you see anything? I can't see anything. No, I don't see anything. I think they've gone down into the undergrowth, unfortunately. But nice to see anyway. Burchell's cuckoos are always great. And sure, most of you have them on your bird lists already, but maybe some of you that are starting out, there's a new one for you. I think yesterday was a good day for bird lists for those that have just started. I think we did 18 or 19 birds in the morning, which was pretty good. MH, you're asking about the big birding day in November and whether or not I'll be taking part. I would really like to. I think we'd have to make a plan. Obviously, it would be great to do 2 bird-themed drives for that day and to try and have the big birding day together. And so I think by that stage, James and Steph are here with me at Djuma. So maybe, yes, the 3 of us can form a team, because you have to have a team and then you register and all the rest, and maybe we should do it. the thing is that you can travel, so that's what makes it a little bit difficult if we're at work. But I think so. I think I would like to do it. I think it's a good thing to do, and it's always fun just to test to see how many birds you can get in a single day, and to be seeing how many you can find. So I think yes, we should do it. I'll speak to Steph about it and James and see if they're keen to help me out, and then to be a little team, and we see if we can maybe find as many birds as possible. It'll be interesting how many we can get. I reckon if we did it between the three of us, and maybe we could get, I don't know, I reckon 180 species, maybe even 200 if we really pushed would be possible. It would be a real push, but I suppose it is possible. I've done some big birding days here in the Sabi Sands before, and the one I think we got 180 species, and so that was quite good. And the other one, I can't remember how many we got, but it wasn't as good. I think we got just about 120, 130, which is not that great. We should get more than that, particularly if you can use bird calls as well, because in the big birding day rules, if you use bird calls, it's just got to be verified by some other guides, and then you can add it to your list. So if you use calls, then you can rack up the numbers quite quickly. But we'll see. I'll try and kind of coax the other two into it. I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. I think they'd both be into it, and then all of you can join us for Big Birding Day. We'll do in the morning and the afternoon. Birding Big Day. Is it Birding Big Day, Big Birding Day?
Birding Big Day.
Birding Big Day, there we go. Big Birding Big Day. Is that what we can call it, VM?
Okay, mix it up if you want.
Okay, we can mix it up. Awesome. So we'll see. I mean, maybe that's something that we can do, and like I say, we'll involve all of you as well. Big Birding Day, Birding Big Day. There we go. We'll get it right eventually. It's somewhere in between all of this. But it's always a fun thing to do, actually. Like I say, when I was at Singita, we did one, and we had a whole bunch of teams at Singita because we had lots of rangers there, and we all went around, and we were kind of in different vehicles, and everyone drove to different places, and we had used the extent of our traverse, and we actually did really well. There were some really cool birds that came out of it. The guys got some crazy ones, and a few rarities in there as well, which is pretty cool. But talking about sort of birds and things like that, we kind of coming along towards Nyala Road South, and always like this section. I feel like there's a good birding area. It's kind of along a drainage line. There's a few dead leadwoods in places, which are great for nesting birds, particularly those that do nest in dead trees, so barbets, woodpeckers, rollers, those kind of things. So it's always good just to kind of scan around these areas. It's also a good place for mammals too. It's got a few little mud wallows and pans, and so these places are great for the mammals, and they spend a lot of time in this area, so it's always nice just to check around. And talking about updates and kind of checking around, I believe Tingana is being a busy boy this morning. I believe he's at the moment on Arethusa and is currently mating with Moya, apparently, which I'm sure is not going to make Anderson very happy, but nonetheless. Now, our birds of this morning, hornbills. So to continue our bird theme, we've got the red-bills here, and I think there's two yellow-bills on the other side, so it can be nice to see the difference between the two of them. But these red-billed guys have got much smaller beaks than the yellow-billed. They're also a little smaller than what the yellow-bills are, and you tend to find that they get a little bit out-competed by them, unfortunately, but look very similar otherwise. The sort of feather patterns and black and white is pretty similar to what you see on the yellow-bills. Hornbills are funny birds. They always entertain me in the mornings at camp because they sit and they peck at themselves, and they go and hop around all the cars and try and find food and all kinds of other things, and drive Amanda pretty crazy because they keep landing at the breakfast table and trying to pick up food and pick through the plastic and all kinds of other things that she wraps the food in so that it doesn't get eaten by the birds. But they're a bit of a handful. And like I say, the yellow-bills are actually in front of us as well. So we've not got not only the red-bills on this left side, but we've got the yellow-bills straight in front as well. I think they're yellow-bills. They look like it. Bigger beaks. Yes, there we go. So there's a little yellow-billed pair too. And I was saying just now that there's a good place for looking for birds because of the dead trees. Now, this is a species that will nest in a dead tree as well. So they often find holes in trees and nest in there. And so these are pairs that are around, and maybe there's a little competition over a nesting site between the yellow and red-bills, or it could be, as you're seeing there, that bird is pecking at the wood itself. It might be some sort of food item that's crawling around. Maybe there's something on the tree itself that they're after. So interesting, but nice to see. And like I say, a good place to do a bit of birding. When you find dead trees like this, you will often find a lot of these kind of birds that like to nest in these dead trees hanging around as well. A bit of sunshine coming out. It seems the clouds are starting to separate a little bit. It's at least been not as hot as yesterday, that's for sure. Now, Snazzies, I don't know if I got that all, but I think you said, can I wear a paper beak for birding day? Did I get that right, Faith? I hope so. I think I've got that right. But if that is the case, yes, I can most certainly wear a paper beak. I'm not ashamed to wear paper beaks and various other things. I've probably made a fool of myself far more than that before, so I will wear a paper beak, no problem. What kind of beak would you like, Snazzy? You've got to tell me. Would you like a raptor beak? Do you want a sunbird curved beak? Do you want a seed eater beak? Do you want... What kind of beak do you want? Tell me, #safariLIVE, as to what beak you think I should get. Well, hello, Nyala. You're rather dirty. What have you been doing? Oh no, he's been horning the mud. So you will find that Nyala and Kudu do this quite regularly, even wildebeest as well. And the males often horn the mud like that, and it adds a little bit of sort of texture and adds to the sort of size of it, and often they do it when there's females around. And also, I've heard a theory that it creates a layer that makes it very difficult for any insect parasites to get into the horns and bore into it, but I'm not sure if that is 100% true. I'm not sure I believe that. I think it's more just as a way of kind of adding some sort of structure to it and making it them just more impressive and stand out a lot more. But he's having a nice little drink at the same muddy water that he's been horning. It seems as though he must have used that right hand side and pushed his horns into the mud and turned it up, and then now has come for a bit of a drink on the edge. But he's a beautiful Nyala. It's a massive individual. It's not a small Nyala by any stretch of the imagination. He's got beautiful big horns, and you can see he's got long shaggy fur on his neck area, so this is definitely one of the bulls that is in his prime, and I would imagine one of our mating bulls. I don't think there'd be many others that would be able to compete with a male like that. Also a very thirsty male too. So you can see that their way of drinking is a little different to the way the cats drink. They actually put their muzzle in and suck water up. Now, I believe Taylor McCurdy has now gotten involved with the paper beak story for birding day, and has now issued me with the challenge to wear a bush chicken beak. Now, Taylor, I don't know what a bush chicken beak is, but if you design it and send me a picture of your bush chicken beak, I will wear it for you, and then we'll have to think of something. What should we give Taylor to wear? Because if she's challenging us, we can't not return the favor. And VM's a good one to ask for this, because VM comes up with some crackers. VM, I reckon that we need to get her to wear much like a green wood hoopoo, so a big red long curved beak. So it's got to go out. Yeah, exactly. So it must extend towards the steering wheel. So Taylor, you have to wear a big recurved nice red beak, and it must be able to touch the steering wheel, because it has to be very long. Or a spoonbill. There we go. That's it. Spoonbill. That's it. Taylor, you have to wear a spoonbill beak, paper beak, and it must be big. It must be proportionate to the bird, and so a spoonbill has a long beak, and so you need to have a long beak as well that comes out, and it's going to get in the way, I know, but that's okay. You'll deal with it. You'll be fine, I know. You'll make a plan. So that's what we're going to issue Taylor. She has to wear a spoonbill beak. What should we do for Brent and Jamie? I feel like they need to get involved as well. And so VM says that Brent needs a babbler beak or a hardy-dar beak, because he just doesn't keep quiet. So, a babbler beak, I reckon hardy-dar beak for Brent. And Jamie? A blue waxbill beak. Okay, so Jamie, blue waxbill beak, Taylor, a spoonbill, Brent, a hardy-dar. There's the challenge issued, and we have to be a bush chicken. So Taylor, remember to send me a photo of what you want this bush chicken beak to look like, and I will happily wear such a thing and put it on my face. I'm sure that somebody is going to be on leave at this stage and get away with this, but we will enforce it later, or if they're on leave, they have to wear it anyway. They have to wear it for the day while they're on leave. The duration of our drive, wherever they may be on leave, they'll have to wear it. How about that challenge?
What about Scotty?
And Scotty as well. What about Scott? What do you think for you? I'm not sure. I'll have to think about Scott, and I'll think about James and Steph too, because we'll have to add them into this mix too if they're around here on Djuma. So we'll think about, we've got 3 more beaks to think about. I think that we need somebody to have a heron beak as well. So I don't know who that will be, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Right, but while I think about it, I believe Jamie is still driving around in the Mara, and I wonder what she thinks of VM's blue waxwell beak suggestion for her.
What about a hardy-dar beak for Scott? Or something somewhere along those lines. We'd have to find a way to fit it over his amazing beard, though. I think we can manage it. Hardy-dar. What else? Saddle-billed stork would be a pretty impressive one. Or a shoebill. With an actual... Oh, Ferg. We should have kept that one quiet. We could have run with that one. A shoebill with an actual shoe. I might have to wear a shoebill because I think the birding day comes pretty close to when we're going to be around in Uganda looking for them. So I might have to go with that instead of the blue waxbill. Now, we've stopped on the top of a ridge for a couple of reasons. One, if I go over the other side, then we won't have any signal at all. But 2, I've just realized this is actually the best viewpoint in terms of actually being able to see almost all of the land that we traverse. Not all of it, obviously, because there's ridges in the way. But it's actually a really nice position to be in, apart from the howling wind, which is why there's such stunted vegetation around here. So I think if we work our way... No, I won't. I was going to say we work our way around from left to right, but I'm sure you'd far rather go across to Taylor and go and have a look at a baby elephant.
Jamie, it is so tiny. You would absolutely love this. It is a little elephant that is still wobbly on its feet and so small that it just weaves and bobs and weaves underneath Mom's belly. Look how tiny this little thing is. You can see its trunk doesn't even touch the ground just yet. It can't be very old. It must only be a couple of days old. When it was going, oh, maybe even younger. Whoops, careful. Maybe even younger than that. Maybe it was only born maybe last night and it's still struggling to its feet. It is very, very small. Oh, careful. Oh, that is precious. And it does take them a little bit of time. Obviously, they learn to stand relatively quickly. But, navigating this really sort of tough terrain, it's not flat. It's be quite tough for a little elephant. Oh, it is so small. Yes, I'm going to change my mind. I think that's only maybe a couple of hours old. Maybe it was born last night. Seeing a lot of young elephants at the moment and staying right in between Mom's legs too. Mom's keeping a very, very close eye on it and helping it as it goes along. And not particularly bothered by the cars either, which is lovely. Now, obviously looking at this cow, and she's on her own with her little one, but it would make sense that she is on her own. Normally when they give birth, they move away from the herd. And Becca, you're wondering how big is a herd of elephants normally? It depends on the season. If it's particularly dry season and the elephants have come together to move around, then you can have as many as 200 elephants. Otherwise, an average size herd, I would say anywhere between 20 and about 40 elephants. Again, it just depends on the area. But this is so precious. Look at it. Careful. It obviously wants to do all these things, but hasn't quite got the capacity to control every bit of its body just yet. So legs are going, right, we're going to go straight, and then trunk goes to the right, and oh my goodness, look at it. Wobbling about. Oh, this is very, very, very precious to see. If only we could capture a moment of one being born while we're live. Now, Tina, you're wondering about how much elephants weigh when they're little. Well, that little fella over there wouldn't weigh too much more than about, I would say, between 50 and 80 kilograms, give or take a little bit. I've never weighed a baby elephant, though, but they're not particularly small at all. I mean, I'd struggle to lift up a newborn elephant. So it just depends. So sort of like everything, some are born a little bit larger, like with humans. Some babies are bigger than others, but anywhere between about 50 and 80 kilograms. Isn't that absolutely precious? and it has been suckling too, in case you are worrying. I did, as we arrived in the sighting, it did stop and have a little suckle very quickly. So that's good news, because you know that's the most important thing. When an elephant stands, shortly after, Mom will try and guide it to her mammary glands, and if it doesn't have a drink, it's going to dehydrate pretty quickly. And obviously Jamie had that very, very sad sighting the other day, which must have been so traumatic to see, especially when Mom realized that the youngster was still stuck. The afterbirth was all attached to a bit of grass, which is so unfortunate. But this little guy will be okay. Elephants have got a relatively good sort of success rate in making it to adulthood, not like something like a lion cub or a cheetah cub. Now, Lily, you're wondering if this elephant, the little one, would be bigger than a German Shepherd. I'm just going to try and get us a better view quickly. I don't think it would be quite as long as a German Shepherd. Height-wise, maybe about the same. There we go. But, oh, careful, you're falling again. But unfortunately, I've never been close to a baby elephant before, so I can't even tell you how. I wouldn't be able to tell you how tall it is. I'd imagine it'd be about knee height or so. So I would assume a German Shepherd might even be a little bit taller than that elephant. But next time I can get an elephant and a German Shepherd to stand next to one another, I'll be able to answer that a little bit more accurately. It doesn't even know it hasn't quite sort of managed the reverse gear just yet. Oh, that is so great. Seems as though this sort of the forested areas are popular spots for the females to give birth, and it would obviously hide them, conceal them from any predators, because if hyenas got wind that there was an elephant giving birth, or lions, they'll start harassing a female to quite an extent, although you've got to be quite brave to try and take on a fully grown elephant cow. I think that is quite a risky matter. Sitting just right underneath Mom 6. That's when you know they're young, when they can go right under without their heads touching anything. Oh, that's a new little elephant. We've been so fortunate with seeing so many of these youngsters. Now, another question from Becca. Thank you for your questions today. We're wondering about the elephant's trunk and if that little one will have a hard time controlling it. Most certainly, it's a muscle. So, like anything, they have to train those muscles, and it takes a lot of time. So it takes about a year for an elephant to have relatively good control of their trunks. Otherwise, they just swing it around. And I don't think they're necessarily doing it on purpose. My greatest thing is to watch a young elephant trying to pull bits of grass out of the ground. Even one blade of grass can be an absolute struggle. But, persistence and eventually it'll start developing the necessary muscles and we'll be able to control it. So that's also a good way of how to gauge an elephant's age, is by the control of their trunk. And that's what we typically use when we see little ones. But this one you can clearly see is absolutely, fresh into this world. The fact that it's so wobbly on its legs. I'm starting to think maybe it was last night that this has happened, and she's just come out now, out of the forest and out into the open. But she is grazing towards another tree line. And she'll sort of stay out of sight for a little bit, just a few days, just until that little one can get strong enough before she regroup with the herd again. And most animals do that once they've given birth. You try and stay hidden, because those little ones are exceptionally vulnerable. But again, like I said, the chances of a pride of lions or a group of hyenas even coming to mess with Mom now, it'd be quite silly to do so, because she would not tolerate them whatsoever. But if it's a big enough pride of lions, they can distract her, and most certainly the table could turn. But they're tough creatures. They're the most magnificent, sensitive, intelligent, everything you can think of an elephant is. Now, Pokemon, you're wondering if the rest of the herd would come to the rescue if Pride Lions came on in. If the herd was around, probably. Maybe some other females that are just on their own, or some young bulls could come in as well. Like buffalo, elephants are very social, and we've seen it before. And we often talk about this, how elephants come to the rescue to help rescue other animals when they're distressing. They'll come on in and chase whatever predator it may be around. So most certainly. But if she's on her own, then there's nothing she can do. She can trumpet for as long and for as loud as she wants to, and sometimes it might not work in her favor. But there's so many elephants around within this area. I would think that someone would come and help her, even if it wasn't a part of her herd. I believe that elephants are just the most incredible animals in that sense. So I'm just watching, there's a car coming past us. There you go. The balloon team, after breakfast, after their guests have finished breakfast, all heading back home now and just hiding on the side. So she keeps checking on that little one too. She's always swinging her trunk over, just sort of reassuring, going, okay, you're all right, it's okay. Now, Marion, you're wondering, when does the umbilical cord attachment drop off? Well, with elephants, I'm trying to think. I haven't really seen it, obviously. You see it a lot with giraffe and the antelope species. And normally around 3 months or so, that umbilical cord, this is with giraffe, it's quite tough now. And it will typically drop off just after that. But I haven't seen an elephant's umbilical cord before. Besides the one which was very sad when I witnessed this sort of elephant that was stillborn. That was very sad. Otherwise, I didn't actually see it on this little one, but it was also moving around so quickly. I'm sure it would be similar. Probably take a couple of weeks to dry out, and then eventually popping off after a few months. It seems to last a little bit longer on the. Well, we always see it on the wildebeest and the giraffe and the impala. I'm not sure about elephants. And we're not sure on the exact date, but they're just disappearing out of view now. That was very nice. That was a nice surprise. The elephants have been kind to us today. Thank you, little elephant. She's just going off now out of view. But maybe this afternoon, I'm trying to think just watching her route. We can come back and have a little drive around here to start, because we're not far from home. And then maybe take one of these other roads that hug the forest. Maybe we'll see her moving around and in there. My car has just started making a strange noise. No. I have got a stone in my brake pad at the moment. I need to try and get this out. This might require some physical labor. Let's see if it's going to drop out. Find the reverse technique works quite well. Sometimes you got to get under there with a wheel spanner though. Okay, that's not too bad. I seem to have lost it. Wonderful. Whew, that's never fun. Right, so we're going to start heading towards home, back towards the escarpment road, and hopefully we'll find some interesting animals along the way. And I'm sure Tristan is heading home to the smell of bacon sizzling in the pan.
We were just looking at a squirrel and a crested barbet that was for some reason sitting on the same termite mound, just eyeing each other, and unfortunately they then flew and ran away from us and left us in the dust really, and we've now unfortunately got nothing to show you. I was hoping that they would still be there, but they moved. So we are slowly but surely heading back home. We're just going up towards quarantine, and taxis just turned out in front of us, which is, I was hoping wouldn't be the case. It would have been nice just to drive up here and not have any dust, but it's okay. We'll just meander slowly behind him and see if we can spot anything that maybe they've missed. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes we spot things. You can be right behind a vehicle and they miss something and you spot it. So we'll just check around and see. It's otherwise quite quiet. We went past Treehouse Dam just to check that area and just to see if there was any sign of tracks or anything like that, because I don't know if anyone even went down there. It seemed to be very quiet. There was an Egyptian goose that was sitting on the edge of the water and a blacksmith lapwing, but other than that it was all very, 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 very quiet there. And so that led us to a conversation. Well, Liam and I got into a conversation about the various leopards of the area and what the potential future is going to hold for Djuma, as to who is going to end up being the dominant female around around this area, and whether or not the young females from the west are going to start imposing themselves here. Could Kuchava move in this area in a few years' time once Thandi and Shadow move on? It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be difficult to tell who's going to be. I really, really wish Shongile would appear somewhere and that she would come back in. That's what we actually got to eventually, is that we hoped that Shongile would be this new leopardess that would, young leopardess that would have staked her claim and stayed here. So I really hope that she shows herself at some point. It doesn't really matter even if it's not here at Djuma, just somewhere, just so that we could know what's going on with her, or whether or not she's even still around, or if she's maybe moved into the Kruger. It's a similar thing that happened with Sakani. Sakani was the same kind of thing. She was here and then all of a sudden gone. Months went by, no sign of Sakani, no idea, and then she just appeared in the Kruger National Park somewhere in some photos. So it's an interesting kind of thing, and hopefully Shongile, wherever she is doing just fine, and hopefully one day she will end up coming back into this area and we'll see her and see where she's been doing and what she's been up to. I've spoken to some of the Chitra guys about it, and they still maintain that she's hanging around. There's lots of tracks for a young female leopard around Hoffman's, Little Gowrie, but they just haven't found her. They said the area that these tracks are walking around in is very thick, very dense. It's a hard place to find, and I know where they're talking about. It really isn't pleasant at all, and it's not a place that is easy. It's much like the northern part of Djuma, north of the camp, where there's a lot of big, deep drainage lines, a lot of thickets. It's very tough to find animals in those kind of places, and so they say they've seen tracks. They're not 100% sure if it's for her, but they're seeing tracks of a smallish female leopard moving around that area, and so it's hopeful. I mean, it might not be her, but it's hopeful that it could be, and I'm just hoping that there's a picture update at some point that can put a lot of sort of rumors and things to rest. And if there isn't, well, I don't know where she's ended up, and I don't think anybody does know. There's no reason to think that she's kind of been taken or anything like that. There really isn't, There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, and once again they surface as time goes on, and it happens with every time we see a leopard going sort of AWOL for a few weeks. We start to get these crazy rumors that start about zoos and hunting and all the other stuff. So it's an interesting thing, and I believe a lot of you are relieved that her tracks have been seen. Now, like I say, I mean, it's not 100% certain that it's her tracks. It's just a small female leopard, and the only small female leopards in this area were Shongile at the time that would go into that place. I suppose Shadow's cub could be considered, but her track would be smaller than Shongile's for sure, and Shongile's will be smaller than Shadow and Thandi still at this stage. So I kind of trust those trackers. The guys that I've spoken to are some of the better trackers that are in this northern section. So when I talk to them and they say that they're seeing tracks that look like hers, I always tend to err on belief on their side. These guys have been doing it for many years, and to not trust them is not really the way to go about things. I mean, they might be wrong, but at the end of the day, I think that 9 times out of 10 they're right, and if we just have a little bit of hope and a bit of faith, then you never know. Maybe something happens and she arrives and back on Djuma, and we get lucky. I mean, there has been small leopard tracks seen all over the place. So I myself had a young female leopard track on Gowrie Main the other day, and I certainly don't think it's Shadow's track, and I don't think it's Shadow's cub either. So I'm not 100% sure it's Shongile's, but I think it's somewhere close to hers, or potentially could be hers. So that's that. So I think that's the kind of only updates I've got. I know a lot of you have kind of been asking about her updates, but I don't really have much more for anybody. That's all I've heard and all that we've picked up from anybody recently, and so that's it. Right, now, and that's it from myself and VM. We're going to head back for breakfast. Who knows what breakfast is today? I don't think it will be pancakes. What's that? A kudu, VM. That's a rarity. It's almost like a Shongile sighting these days. VM's very excited. I haven't seen VM pointing and shouting like that for a long time. So there's a kudu that's just meandering, a couple kudu actually meandering off into the bush. But like I was saying, we're going to head back for breakfast. We're uncertain what it is today, so I don't think it's pancake day. But let's go back to Brent Leo Smith so he can wrap things up this morning, and maybe he has an idea what he's going to be having for breakfast.
Well, D'Artagnan's just got up. All the boys are up. So they're on the move. They're heading towards where there are some big herds of wildebeest. Now, some of them have bigger bellies than others, but if opportunity does arise, they will definitely hunt. Oh, there's a little limp there. Now, you might see other vehicles in the background. This is a very popular sighting in the Mara, the Five Musketeers. Oh, there we go, a little bit of playing. Now, I'm hoping they're going to find some breakfast. However, Sebastian and I will be living off tea and cookies till we decide that the cheetah are going to stop moving for the day, and then we might go find some breakfast after that. Oh, we've got tea, cookies. What else do we have? Nuts? Yes, tea, cookies, and nuts. Let's move a little bit. Now, as I said, there are going to be quite a few vehicles around. Now, as the cheetahs start moving, we're going to move with them. But remember, we're going to be with them for the foreseeable future over the next little while. And hopefully Jamie will come in and take our places. We might go look for Malaika a little bit later. But while we've got the boys on the move, this is definitely the spot to be. Now, remember, this is live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. I'm just going to try get us... there we go. How's that, Sebastian?
That's good.
Yes, so we are live at the moment. Yes, hi, guys. We've got some safariLIVE fans in the vehicle next to us. But remember, we could go live at any time, and Sebastian and I will be out and about with the Five Musketeers. So remember to keep a close lookout on that go live notification, because the boys could be on the hunt. Who knows? They might bump into the 4 male lions that we saw earlier. Hopefully, for their sake, not. But as you know, in the African bush, anything can happen at any time, and we're going to keep to nature's schedule, not to the human being schedule. So from all of us here at safariLIVE, from both South Africa and Kenya, we'll see you, hopefully, in a few short minutes or later this afternoon. So goodbye, bon nuit, bonjour, kwaheri.